Chapter 341. Li Changming's snores were deafening. On the other side, Shimen Daqing was also snoring nonstop. Huff huff, huff huff, huff huff huff, puff. Shimen Daqing seemed to have entered a state of deep sleep. As he slept, he snored. After a while, he began to grind his teeth. Suddenly, he turned over and let out an unusually loud fart. A stench instantly filled the air. It was actually a loud and smelly super fart. This Shimen Daqing looked like a talented person, but his sleeping posture was actually so bad. Grinding teeth, snoring, farting, whistling, it was really not lacking. That handsome image of a tree in the wind suddenly disappeared. This caused everyone present to be astonished, amused, and confused. What was going on? Why did the two of them fall asleep while they were fighting? But the judges did not say anything and just watched them sleep. Could it be there was something else going on? On the stage, the 6 judges' faces were incomparably solemn, unprecedentedly solemn. Great Dream Divine Technique? It's actually the Great Dream Divine Technique. Ding Xilan's eyes were shining. How old is this kid? He has already cultivated the Great Dream Divine Technique to the peak of the 2nd level, to be able to pull people into a dream in the middle of a battle. Huff huff. Great Dream Divine Technique. It is said that this technique has long been in decline. For a long time, no one has been able to endure the difficult cultivation of the first few levels. Who is this kid? His surname is Li? He doesn't look very old, but he actually... A teacher from Yunduan High Martial Arts School stared wide-eyed. He was so shocked that he could not speak coherently. A peerless genius. Another judge sighed softly. Another peerless genius. This kid, looking at his facial features, he is definitely not more than 20 years old. Definitely not more than 20 years old. The eyes of all the high martial arts teachers lit up. The Great Dream Divine Technique that had not appeared in the world for a long time was actually cultivated by someone. Moreover, it was cultivated to the small success level. Don't talk, there are changes. Ding Xilan's face was solemn. On the stage, the 2 people who were snoring just now had a change in expression. Li Changming's face became serious and nervous. Shimen Daqing's face also became terrifying, manic, and ruthless. The battle in the dream has officially begun. Sigh, what a pity. Ding Xilan sighed again and again. Li Zhangming was first injured, and then one of his arms was broken by Shimen Daqing. The outcome of this battle is uncertain. If the gap between the 2 of them was slightly smaller, Shimen Daqing, who had fallen into the dream of the other side's main battlefield, would have been crushed. What a pity. This is something that can't be helped. This Li Zhangming must have suppressed his own cultivation progress and realm many times. His foundation is much stronger than that of a normal student. However, Shimen Daqing has also suppressed his own realm. Moreover, Shimen Daqing's real cultivation is at the pinnacle of the embryonic breathing realm. Li Zhangming is only at the innate realm. Another teacher sighed. Just being able to drag Shimen Daqing into the dreamscape is already a miracle. The expressions of the 2 people who were lying down and sleeping changed again. Li Zhangming's face revealed a pained expression, while Shimen Daqing grimaced, giving off a feeling of gnashing his teeth. It was rare for anyone to see the battle between the 2 in the dream, but anyone could see that the battle between the 2 had reached a critical moment. Such a battle atmosphere was definitely much more dangerous than what could be seen with the naked eye. Suddenly, Li Zhangming's expression changed. Fresh blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, instantly dyeing the ground red. Shimen Daqing, who was opposite him, also groaned. Traces of blood slowly flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Zhou Xiaoduo's gaze was like an eagle's, watching the battle without blinking. After a while, Li Zhangming groaned. His body curled up, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood foam from the corner of his mouth. Shimen Daqing, who was opposite him, also groaned and started to spit out large mouthfuls of blood. Shimen Daqing is going to lose. Ding Xilan sighed. Li Zhangming is undoubtedly a genius for being able to do this. It's a pity that if he wins this battle, I'm afraid his vitality will be damaged and his path of martial arts will be severed. Sigh. The other teachers were also understanding people. They all sighed and nodded. On the other side, Zhou Xiaoduo, who had been paying attention to the battle, saw Li Zhongming spit out blood foam. When he took a closer look, his expression changed. He jumped out and said, "We admit defeat for this battle." Before he finished speaking, he rushed in front of Li Zhongming and slapped his dantian. He pried open his mouth and threw a pill in. Then, he poured a basin of ice water that he had prepared earlier on Li Zhongming's head. Then, with a slap, he slapped Li Zhongming's buttocks heavily. This slap on the buttocks was loud and crisp. It directly resounded through the entire arena. It was extremely pleasing to the eye. Even though many people knew that this might be a necessary process and that the intention was to save someone, they still couldn't help but laugh out loud. Some people laughed while thinking, how fleshy is this buttocks to be able to make such a crisp sound that it echoed through the entire arena. Li Zhongming slowly woke up. When he saw Zhou Xiaoduo, he spat out another mouthful of blood. He asked expectantly, "Did I win?" "I admit defeat for you." Li Zhongming panicked. "Then why did you wake me up? Give me half a minute, and I'll definitely drag him to death. At the very least, both of us will be injured. Then you'll be crippled for the rest of your life." "It's not worth it," Zhou Xiaoduo explained faintly. Then, he dragged Li Zhongming back. After walking a few steps, he said, "If you follow my method, you can wake Shimin Daching up. I'm a decent person. If I really don't like that, then I won't personally save him. I don't want to be blamed. In this world, there are all kinds of people." Li Zhongming was still in pain when he returned to his seat. He was so depressed that he kept muttering to himself, "I've embarrassed the old principal. I've embarrassed Second High." Blood and tears rolled down from the corner of his mouth. He wasn't putting on an act. He was truly heartbroken. Phoenix City's Second High had dominated the Longhu ranking battle. Until now, they had won one victory after another. Their only defeat had actually happened at his hands. Little Fatty's heart was extremely pained. "Your defeat can't be considered a defeat. You've contributed greatly and will be the cornerstone of our victory today," Zhou Xiaoduo said faintly. "You've killed the person with the highest combat power among them. At the very least, his soul is severely injured. He won't be able to recover in a few days. Even if there are 100 more nourishment chambers, it won't be able to recover his soul quickly. I should have stopped you when you spat out the first mouthful of blood. However, if I did that, the price they paid would be too small. It wouldn't match your contribution. That's why I waited until now to stop. Although your injuries are more serious, you've directly crippled the opponent's highest combat power. I'm not lying when I say that you can't be considered a defeat. If you win this battle, you'll be the champion of the Longhu ranking battle. Your contribution will be the greatest." Zhou Xiaoduo said in a low voice. Li Zhongming said with tears in his eyes, "Don't comfort me. If I really steal your contribution, you'll definitely beat me up. It's not like I don't know. You like to settle scores after the autumn." Wan Li Xiu, Long Yuxing, and the others, who were squeezing over to comfort him, all spat out a mouthful of saliva. Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. After a while, he said, "Then you can cry. Cry until you die." "I won't cry anymore." Li Zhongming wiped his tears and stopped crying. "You just said that if we win this battle, I'll be the one with the greatest contribution. I'll be the champion in the end. You can't deny this. Everyone heard it." Da. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes and remained silent for a long time. Li Chenglong muttered to himself, "Does this count as Li Zhongming sleeping with Shimendaching? Will the little fatty take responsibility?" Suddenly, this topic aroused everyone's interest. "Hey, you're right. Li Zhongming, this scumbag, seems like he's not going to take responsibility. TSK, TSK, TSK. Poor Shimendaching, he was slept with for nothing. Scumbag. Li Zhongming." Li Zhongming's face twisted. He really didn't have the strength to argue. Otherwise, he would definitely beat them up. At the referee's seat, a few high martial arts teachers watched as Zhou Xiaoduo dragged the person down and watched the people from Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School save the captain. After a long, long time, they looked at each other with strange gazes. Not bad. The 6 judges all looked at Zhou Xiaoduo and Li Zhongming's side. Their eyes were full of praise. Although Phoenix City No. 2 High School admitted defeat in this battle, however, there were simply too many things that were worth pondering over. In the dreamland created by the Great Dream Divine Technique, Li Zhongming was the absolute home ground. Even if his physical body was injured and his cultivation was limited, it seemed like he was at a disadvantage. As long as he continued to fight in the dreamland, Li Zhongming's advantage would only increase. Once it reached the point of life and death, the one who would die in the end would definitely be Ximendaqing. This was already decided from the moment he was pulled into the dreamland. Of course, Li Zhongming, who went to extremes, wouldn't have a good ending. He was still forcing himself to enter the dreamland to kill people. The price he would have to pay in the end was very likely to be the end of his cultivation, with no way forward. But no matter what, in terms of winning or losing, Li Zhongming was still the winner. And Zhou Xiaoduo admitted defeat before his life was in danger. Just when Ximendaqing's soul was confirmed to have been damaged and his internal organs burst and spat out blood, just when Li Zhongming was about to kill his opponent, he admitted defeat. The teachers were all asking themselves, if it were me, would I call for a stop at this time? After thinking about it, they couldn't make up their minds. But the more it was like this, the more reliable Zhou Xiaoduo seemed. Because in Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes, what they cared about was worthless. What he cared about was his brother's life and future. Such a person was definitely worth entrusting his back to at any time. It's not that he didn't care about winning or losing. It's also not that he couldn't bear to kill Ximendaqing. He just cared more about his brother's injuries. He knew that he would win if he continued fighting, but he would rather admit defeat to ensure Li Zhongming's safety. He wouldn't hurt his foundation and have a limitless future. This kind of breadth of mind is worthy of a toast. Ding Xilan's eyes were shining as she glanced at Zhou Xiaoduo, but she pursed her lips and didn't say anything, which was rare. This kind of talent must be recruited. Talents and geniuses were different. Geniuses were aptitudes, but talents were all round. The matter of recruiting people to the school had to be carried out quietly. It had to be settled once the hammer fell. If there was a disturbance and new problems arose, it would be bound to be a long night with many dreams. At that time, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious. They had to enter the village quietly. Don't shoot. Chapter 342. The referee from Hidden Dragon High School had a gloomy expression. He looked at Ximendaqing, who had vomited a few mouthfuls of blood and fainted again. His eyes were filled with unconcealable disappointment. But when he looked at Zhou Xiaoduo, his gaze became more and more fervent. These years, Hidden Dragon High School has been getting more and more biased. The iron and blood aura is getting thinner and thinner. The wind of the big picture is getting weaker and weaker, and the air of a king is getting weaker and weaker. We really need a good leader. And this Zhou Xiaoduo is ruthless to the outside but protective of the inside. He will not be soft-hearted when he needs to be, and he will not hesitate when he needs to give up. The rarest thing is that he values friendship and righteousness, and he is especially steady when looking at the big picture. He is an honest and sincere person and has a pure heart. He is a good candidate for a king. If Hidden Dragon High School carefully nurtures him, he might be able to turn the bad wind around and turn the rotten into the spring breeze. The more the teacher thought, the hotter his gaze towards Zhou Xiaoduo. Originally, the focus of Hidden Dragon High School's enrollment had always been on Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School. This way, they could guarantee that the people they brought out would always be their own people, and they would not have to worry about other forces. But in recent years, Hidden Dragon High School's image had been getting worse and worse, and their external results were getting worse and worse. The feedback from the students who went out was also not very good. Hidden Dragon High School's image could be said to have plummeted. Many old stubborn people were still carrying out the current policy, and they felt that there was nothing wrong with their insistence. But there were already many teachers who were thinking of changing. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the aura of the people on the other side carefully and said, "Next, you can fight as you wish, as long as they don't send out the vice-captain and the two girls. We can win one match and even the score." Li Qinglong was a little worried and said, "What if they send out? Are we going to lose another match?" "It doesn't matter if they do. At most, we will lose another match. It won't affect the big picture." Zhou Xiaoduo laughed arrogantly. "I will go up and beat the rest of them in one go. Once we are done, we can call it a day." Da. Li Qinglong rolled his eyes and said, Then I will go up. Yes, that's good. Remember this, and your chances of winning will increase. Zhuo Duo lowered his voice and said, they've been sparring more than fighting. Their life and death experience is far inferior to ours. Li Qinglong's eyes lit up. Understood. In the previous match, Hidden Dragon High School was the first to fight, and Li Zhongming was the one to fight. Although they lost, it was a glorious defeat. But this time, it was Phoenix City's second high school's turn to fight first. Li Qinglong took a step forward, and the other side began to discuss. Li Qinglong smiled faintly. My name is Li Qinglong. I come from Phoenix City's second high school. I am the vice captain of our team. The self-introduction was complete. Everyone knows each other's information by heart. Is there a need to discuss for so long? Opposite. After a round of discussion, a slender and elegant girl in white stood out. Her facial features were exquisite, and her clothes were as white as snow. Her long hair fluttered in the wind. She was very beautiful. Hidden Dragon High School, Xiangbing. The two of them bowed to each other. Please. Zhuo Duo called out from behind. Feng Feng, don't be mesmerized by her beauty. Even if you like her, wait until the fight is over. Only the winner has the right to talk. Xiangbing's face turned red. She looked at Li Qinglong with a bit of anger in her eyes. Li Qinglong still wanted to explain, but the other side's attacks were already coming at him like a storm. Feng Feng steeled his heart, but he did not dodge or evade. Instead, he charged forward with brute force. In this match, both sides did not use any weapons. They were fighting in close quarters. Xiangbing did not use any weapons, so naturally Li Qinglong did not use any. Only the sound of banging could be heard, one after another. The other side looked like a quiet and delicate girl, but she was actually fierce and frightening when fighting. However, Li Qinglong had been trained by Zhuo Duo. His skin was rough and his flesh was thick. His resistance was far better than ordinary people. He managed to hold on all the way. This round of fighting lasted for a full 3 to 4 minutes. The sound of drums kept ringing. Finally, after a deep muffled sound, both of them somersaulted and stood facing each other. Zhuo Duo spat out what he saw. Li Qinglong's nose was bruised and his face was swollen. His eyes were black and blue. His mouth was cracked and blood was flowing out. On the other hand, the beautiful woman in front of him was also disheveled. She had 2 panda eyes, and her hair was disheveled. Her nose was broken, and it looked a little flat. Her small mouth was swollen from the beating, and the skin on the other side was broken. Chest, lower abdomen, thighs. There were 7 to 8 black footprints on her white clothes. There were also overlapping ones. Li Qinglong was rubbing his wrists, while Xiangbing was moving her ankles. Both of them stared at each other, as if they were looking at a mortal enemy. Zhuo Duo was not the only one who was stunned. Even the audience in the audience were all spitting out their mouths. Even the referees were stunned. To be honest, even with their vast experience and knowledge, they had seen many men and women fighting. However, it was the first time in their lives that they had seen such a fierce fight between a man and a woman. Li Qinglong did not know what it meant to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. He did not know what it meant to treat a beautiful girl well. Her face, neck, nose, chest, lower abdomen, thighs, and buttocks. He really hit wherever he could. He did not show any mercy at all. If it were other men, who would not have a manly demeanor, who would have the nerve to punch another person's beautiful face? It was better to chop off a woman's head than to ruin her face. This was almost a convention. Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts teacher Ding Shilan sighed. This kid is actually the legendary Iron Straight Man. He belongs to the category of Iron Straight Men. If he finds a wife, she will be his punching bag. The few male teachers were also thinking in their hearts. If Li Qinglong came to their school, they might really have to take care of the problem of finding a partner. Otherwise, looking at his behavior today, he would definitely be a bachelor for the rest of his life. One must know that this competition was broadcasted live nationwide. Li Qinglong became famous in an instant. He was even more famous than Zhuo Duo. Zhuo Duo directly beat the beauty to death. Many people online who did not know the truth scolded him. Such a beauty was beaten to death just like that? It was too wasteful. Did he not know how to take advantage of the situation? However, when it came to Li Qinglong, the internet was boiling. My mother asked me why I was kneeling while watching the live broadcast. Because I found a rare iron straight man. Legendary level is not enough to describe him. Only mythical level can describe him. What a fucking straight man. Oh my god. This girl's face is not enough for me to kiss for a year.
He directly disfigured her.
Look at the footprint on her chest. Oh my god. Can you feel the soles of your shoes? Her pair of phoenix eyes were beaten into pandas. Her cherry lips became a ripe watermelon. Tis K, this big brother, I'm kneeling to you. This kid even tore her hair. Fuck, look carefully. The beauty's ear. Fuck, this kid tore her ear. He almost tore it off. Let's talk about it later. They're fighting again. They're fighting again. Everyone hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. They saw that the Iron Straight Man once again launched an attack and fought with Miss Xiangbing for the second time. The muffled sounds of fists hitting flesh were heard almost continuously. Blood splattered everywhere. Looking at her current appearance, no matter how outstanding Xiangbing's talent was, or how strong her cultivation was, she was now an ugly monster. She was really beaten up too badly. The two of them continued to fight in this most extreme way until they were exhausted. Only then did the speed of their punches slow down. Every time there was a bang, everyone in the audience, including the audience who were watching the live broadcast, could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat. They all had a subtle feeling that they did not want to watch, but they could not let it go. In the end, the two of them were no longer fighting. They were competing to see who could take more hits. Admit defeat. Li Qinglong fiercely punched Xiangbing's originally perky but now bloody nose. His expression was unprecedentedly ferocious. I really don't want to hit a woman. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone felt a toothache. You fucking, haven't you hit enough? If you want to hit a woman, how are you going to hit her? Dismembering him by 1,000 cuts and tearing him into pieces? Go to hell. Xiangbing fiercely rushed forward. Li Qinglong roared. His bloodied face twisted with a ferocious expression. His whole body rushed forward and actually knocked Xiangbing to the ground 7 or 8 meters away. Then, Li Qinglong pounced forward. His whole body crossed the 7 or 8 meters distance. With the force of a mountain, he suddenly pressed on Xiangbing's body. His two legs skillfully twisted and separated, separating Xiangbing's legs. Then, he used his body to press down on her body. Panting heavily, he roared, "Do you admit defeat? Do you admit defeat?" Xiangbing struggled desperately, but Li Qinglong simply grabbed both of her hands and pressed them on both sides of her head. Then, he lowered his head and roared, "Do you admit defeat? Do you admit defeat?" No. Xiangbing struggled desperately and shouted, "Even if I die, I won't admit defeat." Li Qinglong freed one hand and punched Xiangbing's face. "Do you admit defeat? Do you admit defeat? Do you admit defeat?" With a shout, he punched again. Another punch. Another punch. All of them smashed on the originally beautiful face with great force. "Do you admit defeat? Do you admit defeat?" Wah! Xiangbing cried. Suddenly, she gave up all of her struggles and wailed, "You bully!" This sudden cry stunned Li Qinglong. This punch did not hit her face, but hit the ring beside her head. He said in a daze, "Why are you crying?" "Shit. We were having a good match, you. You actually cried. Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" You actually have the face to ask her why she is crying? Countless men who were watching the live broadcast banged their heads against the wall. A wave of speechless emotions surged in their hearts and gushed out, but they could not say anything. "I'm so angry. I'm so angry. This straight man, bro. Please be merciful and let me go." Chapter 343. She was a top-notch beauty, yet he had beaten her until she was unrecognizable. Then, he had posed in such a typical position of rape. She was already powerless to fight back, yet he still wanted to punch her again and again. And he didn't allow her to cry. That was awesome. That was really too awesome. That train of thought was admirable. The eyebrows of the few judges twitched wildly. Without saying anything, they hurriedly announced, In this battle, Phoenix City Second High School's Li Chenglong wins. On the ground, Xiang Bing was still lying limply on the ground, crying loudly. Li Chenglong was still riding on her. He was about to stand up when he heard the announcement. However, the moment he relaxed, Xiang Bing scratched his face crazily.
Fuck.
Li Chenglong hurriedly pressed down again, suppressing the person beneath him for the second time. With swollen eyes, he shouted in a sorry state, "Someone quickly come and get her off. I don't hit women, da." Everyone was speechless and speechless. Just this battle, which lasted less than 10 minutes, had made Li Chenglong famous on the internet. Famous all over the country. He was respectfully called Brother Iron and Steel by millions of netizens. Moreover, each of them swore to the heavens that in this lifetime, there wouldn't be a second man who could be steadier than Brother Iron and Steel. Countless people worshipped him as their idol. Only when another girl in white from the opposing team came to support Xiang Bing did Li Chenglong dare to let go. He was still on guard, afraid of being attacked a second time. When his swollen eyes swept across the other girl in white and he was about to say something, the girl in white, who was also in the embryonic breathing realm, actually shuddered. Her pretty face instantly lost its color, and her eyes were full of panic. She hurriedly carried Xiang Bing and ran away like a wisp of smoke. She probably wouldn't run away even if she saw a ghost. Li Chenglong. Xiang Bing was still struggling in the girl's arms. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws while crying loudly, "Li Chenglong. Sob sob, just you wait. I won't let you off in this lifetime." Li Chenglong stood on the spot blankly. He scratched his head and advised, "Miss, why are you so concerned? It's just a competition." Xiang Bing cried even louder. Li Chenglong returned to the team and received a hero's welcome. Zhou Xiaoduo, Long Yuxing, Yu Moyan, and Li Zhangming all bowed deeply in unison. They looked completely convinced and impressed. "Boss Li, I've never been convinced by anyone in my life, but this time, all of us are completely convinced by you." "I'm convinced." "Really?" The expressions of the four of them were extremely solemn. They shook their heads and sighed, feeling ashamed of their inferiority. All of this came from the bottom of their hearts. "Tell me about your thoughts."
Thoughts.
Li Chenglong was swaying, and his mind was a little muddled. "I think it's all thanks to Zhou beating me up every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to last this round." As he spoke, he had already walked to the side of the group. Suddenly, his vision turned black and Li Chenglong fainted. In this round, to be honest, Swollen was also beaten up very badly. Li Chenglong's opponent's real strength was always one whole level higher than his. The whole process was a head-on melee combat. Other than testing each other's ability to resist attacks, it was also a competition of real attack power. All the skills and techniques were almost completely useless in this battle. It was like two bulls smashing into each other and hammering each other. If you beat me, you win. If I beat you, I win. There was no shortcut. Xiang Bing was already prepared before the battle. She had an elemental energy elixir under her tongue. Li Chenglong did the same. Both of them used up the two elemental energy elixirs that could instantly replenish their vitality. It was just that extreme. That was why the battle was so tragic. It's understandable that I came up with such a strategy for Swollen. But why did the opponent choose such a strategy? It doesn't make sense either. Zhou Xiaoduo was really puzzled. Letting a girl use this kind of close combat method, wasn't the organizer of the opposing team too brainless? Little did he know that Xiang Bing was the descendant of the ancient martial arts family, the Xiang family. Her family passed down the Overlord Fist, which was best known for close combat. Although Xiang Bing was a girl, she was known for her valiance when it came to fighting. She never used any weapons. No matter what enemy she met, she would clench her fists and fight. The Overlord Fist focused on momentum. As long as the opponent showed any signs of fear or dodging, the rhythm would be immediately controlled by the opponent. Then, little by little, the advantage would be accumulated, and the advantage would be turned into a victory. In the end, it would be unstoppable. But today, when she met Li Chenglong, she met her nemesis. Li Chenglong did not plan to use any techniques from the beginning. He directly used the battle formation and the strategy of the brave winning in a narrow path. Without dodging or evading, It was a strong attack that went straight for the center. Then, there was an extreme situation where the two sides attacked each other, using strength to fight strength. As a result, Xiang Bing, a beauty who scored more than 90 points, was beaten up by Li Qinglong until her face was disfigured. This brother iron did not have any scruples at all. Eyes, nose, face, small mouth, soft breasts, long legs, none of them could escape Li Qinglong's merciless attacks. Swollen's thoughts were simple. I want to win the competition. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I'll take care of you. Even if you're beautiful, you're not going to be my wife. Why should I give in to you? Besides, didn't they say that men and women were equal? Today, I'll be completely equal and treat everyone equally. After this battle, there was a short period of silence. Even the spectator stands were silent for a long time. Everyone was reflecting on the battle just now, and a thoughtful look appeared on their faces. The 6 judges looked at each other. Everyone felt that they had not woken up from the atmosphere of being struck by lightning. This Li Qinglong, his reputation is completely ruined. One of the high martial arts teachers smacked his lips and said regretfully, "It's a pity if he doesn't have a future. How about this? Our Dragon Soul High Martial Arts special recruit. We can't possibly give up eating because of choking and delay a child." In your dreams, the other teachers roared angrily. Who said that he could not have a ruined reputation? If such a steely straight man was placed in the school, he would definitely shatter the dreams of those girls who had a serious princess syndrome and thought that they should be treated well because they were beautiful. Who said that they did not want him? We need him too much. On the spectator stand, Luo Lai's eyes were wide open. He was dumbstruck as he watched. After a long while, he took a deep breath and shook his head repeatedly. I, Luo Lai, really can't teach such a student. Qin Fengyang is really awesome. Hu Ruoyun also had a look of amazement on her face. It was a marvelous sight. The third round. It's your turn to send out someone first. Zhou Xiaoduo came out and shouted, "That beautiful girl in white, don't come out and get beaten up. I have 4 steely straight men like Li Qinglong on my side." On the other side, the girl in white could not help but take a step back. Her face was filled with fear, and she even trembled. Too scary. There were 4 people like that? The vice captain of Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School could not help but be angry. You just believed what the other side said? It was unknown if there were 4 steely men like that in this world. How could they all be on the other side? However, the girl in white was obviously scared before the battle. Her state of mind was already broken. Even if she forced herself to fight, it would be difficult for her to do anything. Looking around, he could only stand up himself. He had to take down another city. Now the winning score was 1-1, and there were still 2 unconscious people on his side. Their morale had been suppressed too badly. Coincidentally, Zhou Xiaoduo on the other side also had the same thought. After a few days of fighting, Yu Moyan's position was basically set in stone. He was definitely a member that would be settled. Long Yuxing and Wanli Xiu were destined to be inseparable. No school would let go of such a good opportunity if they wanted 2 geniuses. Therefore, Long Yuxing and Wanli Xiu were already safe. Today, Li Zhangming's Great Dream Divine technique had shocked everyone. He had already become the focus of attention, so there was no need to worry. Finally, Li Qinglong's name had also shaken the world through the battle just now. He was also in high demand. In this way, his entire team had already been marked in the eyes of the judges and martial arts teachers. Then all that was left was to win. If they only needed to win, it was really easy and not difficult at all. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed out loud and swaggered out of the room. Vice Captain of Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School, let me play with you. On the other side, Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School's Vice Captain's face was a bit dark. Among all the people in Phoenix City No. 2 High School, the one he was most afraid of was Zhou Xiaoduo. He knew that he didn't have much chance of winning against Zhou Xiaoduo. But now, what he was afraid of had happened. He directly faced this murderous star. Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School, Xiang Chong. That Xiang Bing just now is my sister. Xiang Chong narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. Captain Zhou, I wonder what trump card you will use in this battle. Is it the Iron Fist that made you famous? Or a hidden weapon? Or a leg technique? Zhuoxiaoduo's face suddenly became serious. He narrowed his eyes and said lightly, I don't really understand what you mean. Haha. Iron Fist Prince, in the eyes of a discerning person, is just the most superficial camouflage.
In fact, what you are really good at is something else.
Xiang Chang's eyes were unprecedentedly sharp. He stared into Zhuoxiaoduo's eyes and smiled. Captain Zhuo, I have to say that your strategy is really good. This scheming is even more profound. I admire you. Zhuoxiaoduo's face became gloomy. He said lightly, things have already come to this. Even if you saw through it, what can you do? You will still lose without a doubt. Is that really the case? Xiang Chong laughed and flicked his long robe with his hand. He said coldly, Captain Zhuo, don't blame me for not reminding you. The main material of my robe is starlight silk. It is not afraid of your hidden weapon. Zhuoxiaoduo's face became even more unsightly. Is that so? Xiang Chong flipped his hand, and a heavenly halberd suddenly appeared in his hand. He held the heavenly halberd with one hand and stood straight. He said lightly, in front of my heavenly halberd, I believe that your fists and legs won't have a chance to get close. Chapter 344. There was a whooshing sound. The sky piercer circled in the air, making a sound that sounded like the wailing of ghosts. A visible vortex formed in the air and then disappeared. Xiang Chang's aura rose sharply. His eyes were full of confidence. He said in a deep voice, Captain Zhuo, please. One end of the sky piercer pointed to the sky and the other to the ground. It was shining with a cold light and looked extremely heavy. It was a rare super heavy weapon in this competition. Zhuoxiaoduo's face became more and more serious. Countless people who were paying attention to this battle felt their hearts rise to their throats. Almost everyone had a good impression of Zhuoxiaoduo. However, judging from the current situation, Zhuoxiaoduo was obviously on guard against him. Zhuoxiaoduo was good at all kinds of tricks, but against this vice-captain, he really didn't have any advantage. All of them were restrained by his opponent. One must know that his opponent's sky piercer weighed 500 to 600 kilograms. For such a heavy weapon, wouldn't it be just right for Zhuoxiaoduo to restrain him? Everyone was a little worried. Zhuoxiaoduo was in trouble. Looking at Zhuoxiaoduo's face, which was also extremely serious, it was obvious that he also realized that something was wrong. Zhuoxiaoduo's face darkened. He slowly rolled up his trousers and tightly buttoned his sleeves. Then, he tightened his belt, took out a dozen small jade gourds from his pocket, and threw them on the ground. His face became even more gloomy. Everyone could see that. He must have felt that he was not confident. Since the hidden weapons were destined to be useless, it would be a burden to keep them in his pocket. It was better to throw them away as soon as possible. Only a few high martial arts teachers sighed and frowned. You believed him just because he said so? You threw away your hidden weapons just like that. You have the mentality of a coward before the battle. It was a big mistake. Please. Zhuoxiaoduo stretched out his hand. As soon as he spoke, the sound of wind and thunder suddenly came from the opposite side. The sky piercer on the opposite side turned into a silver mountain of halberds, whistling toward him. Countless vortexes formed one after another in the air. The magnificent halberd mountain formed by the sky piercer was mixed with flickering cold light as it rapidly attacked. Zhuoxiaoduo reacted with lightning speed and rapidly retreated. Between the flickering starlight, brilliant sparks scuttled about and blossomed one after another in the air. It was extremely magnificent. However, as Zhuoxiaoduo retreated, the heavenly halberd's momentum increased by another notch. The Overlord halberd's aura grew even stronger. Like a silver whirlwind, it chased after the twinkling starlight, rushing all the way. Zhuoxiaoduo let out a long howl and soared into the sky. However, the Overlord halberd did not stop. It transformed into a silver dragon and chased after him relentlessly. Zhuoxiaoduo used the starry sky steps and dodged continuously in the air. However, when he realized that he couldn't dodge, he rushed towards the ground with a swoosh. Boom! Zhuoxiaoduo landed on the ground and immediately flew out while sticking close to the ground. He seemed to be at a disadvantage and could only escape. Seeing that his opponent was at a disadvantage, Xiang Chong controlled the sky piercer and rushed down at high speed. He He also stuck close to the ground and chased after Zhuo Duo, continuing to put pressure on him. However, the moment he landed, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his wrist. The heavenly halberd in his hand was unprecedentedly heavy, making it difficult for him to hold on. After he failed to hold on, he let out a roar. The heavenly halberd seemed to have lost its sense of direction and flew out of his hand. As it landed, the sky piercer flew towards the judges like a meteor chasing after the moon. Its target was Ding Xilan. Ding Xilan frowned. With a flick of her finger, she had already stopped the sky piercer in midair. She looked over with a puzzled expression. Of course, she didn't suspect that Xiang Chong was trying to assassinate her. With her cultivation level, even if she didn't flick her finger, the sky piercer wouldn't be able to break through her vital energy shield. She was just curious. Xiang Chong was obviously chasing after her, so why did he suddenly let go of the sky piercer? Looking back at the arena, Xiang Chong's sky piercer had left his hand. However, his momentum didn't slow down. The moment he landed, he jumped up as if he had been electrocuted. He screamed, "Despicable!" On the opposite side, Zhuo Duo stepped on the starlight again and rushed back at a speed much faster than before. He closed in on Xiang Chong at a mysterious angle and aimed one of his legs at the jumping Xiang Chong. This kick came without a trace, but it was powerful and carried with it the sound of the wind breaking through the air. Bang! The dragon's gate leg, which came and went like a ghost, kicked Xiang Chong's crotch once again. It really happened in an instant. Ouch! Xiang Chong let out a shrill scream. His eyes bulged and his body curled up like a cooked prawn. His face revealed an expression of extreme pain. His two hands tightly covered his crotch. The muscles on his face spasmed and twisted. The starlight flashed again. Zhuo Duo stood firmly in front of Xiang Chong again. He was still as handsome and elegant as before. He walked with a majestic gait and a domineering aura. He shouted, "You're wrong. Actually, my fist is invincible." Before he finished speaking, he had already lowered his waist and sat in a horse stance. He punched straight at Xiang Chong's stomach. Xiang Chong's 2 feet left the ground and flew back. The moment he landed, he smashed right into his own chair. With such a huge force, the chair was smashed into pieces and his but landed on the ground. Ouch! Xiang Chong covered his crotch and continued to roll on the ground. His eyes were bulging. On the spectator stand, a furious voice said, "This bastard! I have to." He slapped the armrest and was about to fly out. However, he was pulled back by the person beside him. Master, calm down, calm down, calm down. This is the venue of the competition. You must calm down, calm down." The figure shrouded in a cloak was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He couldn't even speak clearly. This bastard, this. I'm so angry, so angry. Now, let's not talk about what will happen to him. The Kunlun Taoist sect will definitely be famous. Their 10,000 years of reputation has been destroyed by him. This bastard. After this battle, Zhuo Duo became the second most famous legendary character after Li Qinglong. He became famous in one fell swoop, and his name spread across half the sky. Fuck. That's the Galaxy Steps and Dragon Gate kick? Too awesome. My captains were so strong. Ha ha ha. This kick really made me cover my crotch while watching the live broadcast. Fuck, that's really a stroke of genius. Awesome class. The person above feels the same way. Me too. Me too. I'm so happy that I've lost everything. Me too. Me too. At that moment, I really felt a chill on my back. I immediately covered my crotch. First thing. My mother asked me why I was kneeling and covering my crotch while watching the live broadcast. Me too, covering my crotch. Then, a large group of straight men started to comment. Me too. Me too. There were a few thousand comments. Someone started to analyze. Did you see that? During the previous battle, we had analyzed it. The key to this battle is still the combination of Dragon Gate Kick and Galaxy Steps. These two sets of martial arts originally belonged to the Kunlun sect. To be honest, their lethality isn't that great. Naturally, they weren't taken seriously in the past. But From now on, I want to tell everyone, pay attention. The true usage of these two sets of martial arts from the Kunlun sect has appeared. This is definitely a first-class secret technique. That is, the combination of Galaxy Steps and Dragon Gate Kick. The target is the crotch. Maybe it shouldn't be called Dragon Gate Kick anymore. It should be called Crotch Kick. Yes, Galaxy Steps and Crotch Kick. Invincible. It's too sharp. Everyone, we are already studying it now. Don't stop me. I'm going to the Kunlun sect to learn. I don't want to learn anything else, just this step and this kick. I'm going too. Wait for me, duh. Too many onlookers couldn't understand this battle. The live broadcast only had a rough idea. But most of the high martial arts teachers present could all see that the key to this battle was. Yes, it wasn't the key to the crotch. When they first met, Xiang Chong was the main attacker. He attacked aggressively and his momentum was terrifying. Zhou Xiaoduo was the main defender. He used his extreme speed to increase the distance between them. Xiang Chong chased after him relentlessly. Zhou Xiaoduo turned and rushed into the sky. Xiang Chong also chased after him. Zhou Xiaoduo came down again. The moment he came down again, the battle ended. Brilliant! The referee from the Hidden Dragon High School slapped the table and praised. Even a veteran who has been in the Jianghu for decades might not have this kind of battle awareness. Instead of saying that it's battle awareness, it's more accurate to say that it's an exquisite layout. When he threw away the hidden weapons at the beginning and scattered them on the ground, it looked like he was showing weakness. In fact, he had other plans. The hidden weapons only scattered on the ground, but they were still in the arena. In other words, this was Zhou Xiaoduo's earliest move. It was also this move that caused Xiang Chong to be completely unprepared, sowing the seeds of defeat. If Xiang Chong had kept his feet on the ground and attacked steadily, Zhou Xiaoduo's move would have been pointless. However, because Zhou Xiaoduo showed weakness at the beginning of the battle and blindly dodged with his movement, the Overlord Halberd, who emphasized momentum the most, took the opportunity to move and gradually accumulate his momentum. However, because of this continuous pressure, when Zhou Xiaoduo rushed into the sky, Xiang Chong could only chase after him and move away from the ground. Then came the crucial moment. As Xiang Chong leaped into the air to chase after him, his feet were bound to leave the ground. The only place that Xiang Chong's starlight silk clothes could not protect was the soles of his feet. After that, Zhou Xiaoduo landed. He could have landed lightly and continued to wander around. But the moment he landed, he exerted a great force and shook the ground. The true meaning of this was to drive the hidden weapons scattered on the ground. For hidden weapons attacked Xiang Chong from a strange angle, at least from an angle that Zhou Xiaoduo couldn't launch from. Two of the hidden weapons hit the soles of Xiang Chong's feet. Zhou Xiaoduo used a trick to drive the four hidden weapons. In fact, he couldn't exert much power, but what he needed was the right timing. Xiang Chong's soles were attacked. Because he was in mid-air, he was suddenly disturbed. Naturally, he had to stabilize himself first and withdraw the great force he poured into the Sky Piercer. However, he was in the process of attacking fiercely, so it was difficult for him to withdraw it. And this sudden withdrawal inevitably revealed a flaw. At this moment, the other two hidden weapons hit the flaw exposed by Xiang Chong's sleeves. The web between the thumb and the index finger. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 345. That's why the Sky Piercer flew out of his hand. At this time, as the weapon flew out of his hand, Xiang Chong's first reaction was to follow it. His state of mind was even more flustered. How could he have the time to pay attention to the attack on his feet? As a result, the other two hidden weapons, which originally didn't have much power, displayed their greatest effect. They entered the flesh from the soles of his feet, injuring his meridians. Do you think Xiang Chong immediately jumped up the moment he landed? Did he want to jump? No, it was simply an instinctive reaction from the pain. On the other hand, Zhou Xiaoduo's Starry Sky Steps and Dragon Gate Leg had already turned around. He had anticipated the enemy's movements and attacked with certainty. With a kick to the crotch, he completely crippled all of his combat strength. As for the punch after that, it was actually superfluous. There was no real need for it. Because at that time, Victory and defeat were already clear. There was no need for any more movements. After the Hidden Dragon high school teacher's explanation, everyone who didn't understand suddenly felt enlightened. Because this battle was really too fast. Everyone only saw one chasing and one escaping. They rushed up to the sky and then came down. Then, inexplicably, the Sky Piercer attacked. It inexplicably ended. But at the same time, they also looked at this captain of Phoenix City's #2 high school in a new light. This was Xiaoduo's plan was so exquisite. Unexpectedly, every step he took was so unexpected. Yet, it was so logical in his bones. He played with his opponent in the palm of his hand and was extremely happy. In this battle, Xiang Chong didn't lose at all. This Hidden Dragon high school teacher was full of praise. In a battle of martial arts, it's never about who has a higher cultivation base or who has a stronger foundation who will definitely win. In this battle, there are still countless methods, countless openings, and countless traps that can be exploited. As long as they are used well and ingeniously, naturally, the weak can defeat the strong and subdue the enemy to obtain victory. These children of Hidden Dragon #1 high school. To say something that everyone can understand, they've experienced too little society's vicious beatings. These words caused a thoughtful expression to appear on the faces of all the high school teachers. Too little society's vicious beatings. The future was really worrying. Should he suggest opening another class in the high martial arts school? Is this called being beaten up by society? From the looks of it, this Xiaoduo could simply become a professor of this course. There were still many people discussing this on the internet. However, this time, everyone was discussing battle tactics. You can do that? The hidden weapon that was thrown at the beginning was actually a trap. He said that there was no need for it. Fuck, if it were me, I would definitely fall for it. Facing an opponent who is an entire major realm higher than him, he dodged twice, rushed up into the air, and then rushed down. Then, he won with a kick to the crotch. Why do I feel that it's so surreal? Child, you've experienced too little social abuse. Bah, you're the one who hasn't been beaten enough. Could it be that's what Xiaoduo has experienced more? But he won. Alright, this sentence really made people speechless. You don't care how many beatings he's been through. The reality now is that he's won. If he won, that would be his capital and glory. 3 battles, 2 wins, and 1 loss. Zhou Xiaoduo was still standing on the field, unable to get down. Which one of you wants to come up? It's still me for this battle, and it's still me for the next one. Duh. The remaining 3 members of Hidden Dragon were all dumbfounded. Aren't you bullying us? You're the captain. Zhou Xiaoduo naturally had something to say. In the previous battles, we've always fought one person against one team. This time, it's the same. However, Li Changming and Li Chenglong are too weak. One lost, and the other was seriously injured. However, I'm still fine. Of course, I have to continue fighting. If your captain wakes up and wants to continue fighting, it's fine. It's okay to keep winning. We won't be unhappy even if you defeat all of us. After all, this is the rule. However, the problem is that your captain fainted while snoring, grinding his teeth, and farting. There's really nothing we can do about it. Zhou Xiaoduo's tone was very regretful. These beautiful words immediately made the captain of Hidden Dragon, Shimin Daqing, who had just woken up, spit out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. The reality was like this. They could only endure and continue. However, the 2 youths who came up next, after a round of battle, one in front and one in back, they hugged their crotches and were defeated. The internet was completely boiling. Crotch kicking again. Crotch kicking again. Too skilled. So cool. I want to learn. May I ask, where is the Kunlun sect? Same question. I hope the Almighty can give me some pointers. I'm very grateful. This is a unique skill that can save one's life. I must learn it. I must learn it. I must learn it until I'm very familiar with it. I must learn it until I reach the peak of perfection. In the stands. Let's go. The slim figure who was tightly wrapped in the cloak was so angry that her face was ashen. She stood up and turned around to leave. She didn't even look back. She was really angered to death. Master, wait for me. Another figure chased after her. The battle of the top 8. Phoenix City's second high school won. Furthermore, they eliminated Hidden Dragon number 1 high school, which had the highest chance of winning. A super dark horse. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this year, no matter what, the champion would not be Hidden Dragon High School. Hidden Dragon High School had now completely lost the qualification to win the championship. The next step was the top 6. The competition had already ended. The leading teacher of Hidden Dragon High School anxiously led his team to Nanji City. Healing Pod. He had to find the highest grade. Also, he had to find an expert to see if he could heal Shimandaching's soul. If it couldn't be healed, then it would be difficult to maintain the top 3. Although there was no difference in the benefits of being ranked 2nd to 9th, their reputation would be ruined. If they suddenly fell out of the top 3, then they would really be done for. This time, coming to the competition, I've really seen a ghost. On this day, the top 6 were decided. Phoenix City's 2nd high school, Water City's 1st high school, Yanglua's 1st high school, Fenghai's 3rd high school, Phoenix Tail's 1st high school, and Song Mountain's 1st high school. There was really no Hidden Dragon High School. Hidden Dragon High School, which had dominated the championship for many years, had a super big news this time. They actually didn't enter the top 6. This news made everyone's jaws drop, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt that it was reasonable. Hidden Dragon High School first encountered Water City 1st High School, and only won a Pyrrhic victory after all their members were severely injured. Then, they encountered Garrison Store 1st High School and were ruthlessly fought by the other party. They were still full of injured soldiers, and most of them were severely injured. Then, they encountered Phoenix City's 2nd high school, and accidents happened again and again. First, the team leader encountered the successor of the Dream Divine technique, who had not appeared in the world for a long time. Although he was lucky enough to win the match, his soul was injured. Not only was he unable to continue the match, but he was also absent from the subsequent matches. Originally, the vice team leader, Xiang Chong, and his sister, Xiang Bing, were both experts in the embryonic breathing realm. Moreover, they were talents in actual combat, so Hidden Dragon High School had considerable strength. But first, Xiang Bing was disfigured by a certain steel-like man from Phoenix City's 2nd high school, and she was utterly defeated. Then, Xiang Chong was crushed by Zhou Xiaoduo's schemes, and his vital parts were kicked. He was defeated, especially when he was kicked in the crotch. In the next 2 matches, 2 of them were also defeated by Zhou Xiaoduo in the same way. By kicking in the crotch, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't kill him in this position. Although it wasn't fatal, it wasn't crippling, and it wouldn't cause internal injuries, but it was really painful, and it really affected his performance. Moreover, after he recovered and didn't feel anything, he had to habitually walk for a long time. This also led to them encountering Shui City number 1 middle school, which they had already fought once. They were almost swept away, and all of them were defeated. Especially Xiang Bing, this valiant beauty, was beaten by Li Qinglong to the point that she was traumatized, and she didn't dare to go on stage. She was even afraid to go on stage, so how could she not be defeated? Hidden Dragon High School's dismal ending made countless high school teachers feel satisfied, but they also had mixed feelings and couldn't put their thoughts to words. It was probably because the words of the teacher from the Hidden Dragon High School were too reasonable. These students had too little experience of being beaten up by society. Many high school teachers with ideas were thinking about this sentence. It was indeed too little. They were too well protected. If they didn't encounter a similar experience, if they really went to the battlefield, or if they really went to the Jianghu, they would just stretch out their necks and be slaughtered. Those old foxes, those mortal enemies, which one of them would show mercy just because you were a genius? They would only kill with extreme pleasure. Vicious beating. It's imperative. The high school teachers all had such thoughts in their minds. Why do the old people always say that to suffer a loss is to gain an advantage? This sentence is a famous saying when it comes to martial artists. If you suffer a loss, as long as you don't die, you really gain a big advantage, because you won't suffer the same loss again, and too many people will pay with their lives if they suffer such a loss. In the previous Dragon and Tiger Roll competition, everyone had fought according to the rules. They had brought out as much strength as they could. It was probably because everyone followed the rules and did things according to the rules, so they didn't feel that there was any problem. However, in this year's batch, the students of Phoenix City No. 2 High School, especially Zhuoxiao Duo, suddenly made everyone feel that the previous way couldn't work. All of them were as pure as Bai Hua. In the future, they could only wait to suffer losses. Based on the principle of thinking for the students, everyone began to think seriously. The top 6 drew lots. Phoenix City No. 2 High School against Yangluo No. 1 High School. Water City No. 1 High School against Fenghai No. 3 High School. Phoenix Tail No. 1 High School against Songshan No. 1 High School. For Phoenix Tail No. 1 High School and Songshan No. 1 High School, such a draw result was almost equivalent to picking up a bargain. Originally, the highest record of these two teams was only in the top 8. Moreover, it was not stable. Often, they would be in the top 8 this year and be kicked out of the top 10 next year. But this time, it was too smooth. Not only did they enter the top 6 in one go, but they also had the possibility of going further. It was really a big pie that fell from the sky. Every time they drew lots, it was almost a battle between the strong, and their combat strength was basically exhausted. This time, the top 6 drew lots again. Naturally, they didn't know Zhuo's ability. They only felt that they were too lucky. Perhaps they could win the championship? In this round of the top 6, the main purpose was to determine the top 4. The winners of the 3 groups would directly enter the top 4. The losers would draw lots again. One would have a bye, 2 would fight, and the winner would fight with the one who had a bye. And the final winner would obtain the last seat in the top 4. After that, the top 4 matches would be simple. The winners would fight for the first and second place, and the losers would fight for the third place. In other words, this year's Longhu List competition was nearing its end. That afternoon, Phoenix City No. 2 High School and Yangluo No. 1 High School were fighting, and Luoyang No. 1 High School had Zhuoxiao Duo, who had a high opinion of the tall girl from the beginning to the end. Chapter 346. The others were at most at the same level as Li Qinglong and the others. Only this girl was far beyond her peers. The feeling she gave to Zhuoxiao Duo could almost be described as sharp. Zhuoxiao Duo could be sure that if she didn't count himself, this girl had the amazing combat power to kill Li Qinglong and the others in one breath. However, according to the information he had gathered beforehand, not only was this girl not the captain, she wasn't even the vice-captain. It could be said that she was very low-key. This match was different from the match against Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School. Long Yuxing fought the first match until he was exhausted and finally won with difficulty. However, he didn't have the strength to fight the second match, so he had to withdraw. Wan Lixio took over the baton and fought the second match. The opponent was also a girl, and it was an evenly matched battle. The two were beaten until they couldn't even get up. In the end, the match ended in a draw. The two girls left the stage, vomiting blood as they were supported back. In the third match, Li Qinglong fought the opponent until the sky turned dark. Finally, he won with difficulty. It was still his ability to resist, take a beating. His injuries seemed to be lighter than his opponent's. He won by a fluke, really by a fluke. So far, there were 2 wins and 1 draw. Zhuoxiao Duo simply walked up and prepared to fight the 4th match. He was sure that the tall girl of the opponent would have to fight no matter what. Otherwise, if Yangluo No. 1 High School lost another match, it would be the end. Zhuoxiao's guess was not wrong. The girl's face was cold. She stepped forward with her 2 long legs. Lan Bingrui. These 3 cold words were not polite at all. Zhuoxiao Duo. Zhuoxiao Duo also didn't show any expression. In a sense, Zhuoxiao Duo was also a steely straight man, not inferior to Li Qinglong's steely straight man. You think you're so good just because you're beautiful? As long as I don't owe you money, I won't hold back at all. Besides that, don't you think you're too tall? Zhuoxiao Duo was 189 meters tall. This height was already considered tall among men, and this girl was at least 184 meters tall. Just by standing there, she seemed to be taller than Zhuoxiao Duo. Just this height alone was quite unfriendly. Please. Please. Both of them got into their stances at the same time. Zhuoxiao Duo didn't hesitate. He fully used the star steps and dragon's gate leg, but then he laughed bitterly. because the movements used, starry feet, star-plucking stars, and dragon's leg. Fuck, they're from the same source. Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. This girl was also a descendant of the Kunlun sect? But seeing someone of the same origin as him, how could he be so cold? The others were also taken aback for a moment, and then they revealed expressions full of interest. Now that the two successors of the Kunlun Daoist sect had met each other, this battle was definitely going to be interesting. Bang, bang, bang. Zhou Xiaoduo and Lan Bingrui exchanged 3 blows and kicked each other 3 times. Both of them acted as if nothing had happened and retreated. The probing had been completed. Zhou Xiaoduo and Lan Bingrui's assessed faces became serious. They knew each other best. Through the exchange just now, Zhou Xiaoduo had already determined that the girl in front of him was an exceptional genius. Moreover, she was a genius who had suppressed her vital essence's agitation 7 or 8 times when a martial arts master was breaking through to the innate realm. In other words, she had the suppression of Long Yuxing, Wan Lixiu, and the others. Moreover, she was in the intermediate stage of the embryonic breathing realm, which was close to the pinnacle of cultivation. That's pretty awesome. Zhou Xiaoduo felt a faint pain in his calf after the collision. He immediately grimaced. However, he didn't know that although Lan Bingrui's expression was still cold, she was so shocked that she almost cried out in surprise. In Yangluo No. 1 High School, she was a great genius who dominated the entire city. Looking at the past few hundred years, there was no one in Yangluo City who could achieve what she had. In this Dragon and Tiger List tournament, there was no student who could catch her eye, including the team leader of No. 1 High School of Hidden Dragon, Shimandaching, whose cultivation had reached the high level of the embryonic breathing realm and was half a step to the primordial elixir realm. If they really fought, she could definitely take him down within 50 moves. The rest were even more mediocre and couldn't reach the apex. This was Lan Bingrui's confidence. However, when she really faced Zhou Xiaoduo, through these few exchanges, she could acutely feel that this Zhou Xiaoduo's foundation was actually more profound than hers. No, it should be far more profound than hers. This was because he was only at the innate realm now. He was obviously a realm lower than her, but he could still be on par with her in terms of strength. If this wasn't a huge difference in foundation, what else could it be? In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 30 moves. Both of them didn't use any weapons and only fought with their fists and feet. In close combat, there was another muffled bang. Both of their legs kicked each other firmly again, and they retreated at the same time again. However, as Zhou Xiaoduo retreated this time, he threw out 3 small gourds, which flew out like lightning. Lan Bingrui was in midair and had to bear the aftermath of the impact from both sides. She definitely couldn't dodge all of them. According to Zhou Xiaoduo's estimation, she could only dodge 2 at most. No matter what, she would be hit by at least 1. However, Zhou Xiaoduo was thinking too much. She didn't dodge at all, so all 3 hidden weapons hit her. However, when the hidden weapons hit Lan Bingrui's body, they were completely useless. Her snow-white clothes didn't even have any reaction, and the small gourds had already shattered. Your clothes are really not bad. Zhou Xiaoduo praised sincerely, but his heart was filled with helplessness. It seemed like hidden weapons really couldn't be used in this round. This wasn't a life-and-death battle. He couldn't possibly blind this girl, right? However, there was obviously something fishy about the clothes, and it was completely useless. Lan Bingrui said faintly, "Don't waste your time. Hidden weapons are useless against me. It's useless to hit my face or hit my hands anywhere. My galaxy clothes have an automatic defensive ability." "You're really rich." Zhou Xiaoduo grinned. The galaxy clothes were said to be woven with a kind of strange metal mixed with the galaxy cloud soul. This kind of clothes was not only impenetrable by weapons, water, and fire, but also could store true core force. If there was a sufficiently high-level expert who injected his true inner force into the clothes could theoretically absorb an unlimited amount of true inner force. And all the absorbed true inner force would be converted into defensive power. In this way, no matter what kind of sudden attack, the galaxy clothes could automatically sense the impact of the attack and protect the owner. It was truly a priceless treasure. Ordinary ancient martial arts families might not even have heard of it, let alone own it. It seemed that Lan Bingrui's family background was extraordinarily good. Zhou Xiaoduo has met his match. Ding Xilan's face was solemn. I'm afraid this match is really going to be difficult. Ma Zhangxi also kept shaking his head. This kid is really unlucky to have met this girl from the Lan family. This girl is not simple. She has been very low-key all the way and almost didn't fight. However, she also has a lot of gadgets on her. Zhou Xiaoduo might not be able to defeat her. The teacher from Hidden Dragon Martial Arts High School said faintly, in the end, he's just taking advantage of his family background. If Zhou Xiaoduo had the same family background, he would definitely be more outstanding than this Lan girl. Everyone nodded silently. For ordinary people or geniuses in the ordinary sense, Lan Bingrui could easily crush them without using her family background. However, for geniuses of the same level, the addition of family background was enough to create a huge gap. Hidden weapons are destined to be useless. Palm techniques, leg techniques, and footwork are also known to the opponent. The chances of winning this match are slim. Ding Xilan was a little worried. Zhou Xiaoduo has made it this far. Even if he loses, it's not considered a loss. Ma Zhangxi said softly. On the spectator stand, the person in the cloak smiled gently and gritted his teeth. Finally, someone can teach this little bastard a lesson. These few days, I've been so angry that my stomach hurts. Another person said softly, it's hard to say now. You don't know what kind of enemies Xiaoduo has faced and where his real combat power has gone. The person who spoke was Zhou Xiaonya. She knew her brother's ability very well. If it wasn't for Zhou Xiaoduo not wanting to expose himself, it would only be a matter of minutes to smash this girl into meat paste. With this level of ability, you dare to be arrogant in front of my dog. Humph. Why are you so tall? Humph. However, she also knew that Zhou Xiaoduo would definitely not expose himself in this kind of situation. Then, if they wanted to win, there was only one way left. Teacher, it seems that you know the background of this girl? Zhou Xiaoyan asked. She's the last disciple of my junior master. Mu Yinyan said softly. According to seniority, you have to call her junior master. Then why is she so useless? With this level of ability? Zhou Xiaoyan was very disdainful. At this moment, Nian Mao's eyes were full of disdain. Mu Yinyan, da. This sentence was a little heart-wrenching and a little speechless. However, thinking about it, Zhou Xiaoyan was indeed qualified to say this. Looking at the practitioners of the same age, Zhou Xiaoyan could really be said to be invincible in this world. Bang, bang, bang. In the field, the two of them moved like rabbits and swooped down like hawks. They continuously exchanged more than 200 moves, and the sound of vital qi colliding and exploding was constantly heard. Let's end this. Lan Bingrui floated back and pulled out a long sword with a clang. Like a stream of light, she held it in front of her chest. Zhou Xiaoduo, you're no match for me. Admit defeat. Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked and said, you actually used a weapon. Humph. Relying on a weapon to help in the battle, it's an unfair victory. Lan Bingrui said, in a martial arts battle, of course, I'll use everything. What's wrong with that? Zhou Xiaoduo was not convinced and said, humph, in this case, I'll also use a weapon. My sword is also very powerful. Lan Bingrui frowned. So what if you use a weapon? It's not shameful to admit defeat when you're not as strong as others. Zhou Xiaoduo, why are you struggling? I asked you to admit defeat because my sword is too fierce and sharp. I'm afraid that I'll hurt you by accident. After all, we're all Taoists, and you're a junior. It's not shameful for you to lose to me. Zhou Xiaoduo said with a smile. Then why don't you admit defeat? It's not shameful for you to lose to me. Chapter 347. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed. In fact, what you said is exactly what I wanted to say. I just don't know whether you believe it or not. He made a grabbing motion in the air, and a sword appeared out of thin air with a cracking sound. The sword light was as clear as water and as thin as a cicada's wing. Since you're the one who made the first move, I won't hold back. Since we share the same origin, I'll definitely give you some face. Sword. 2 swords. And they were 2 peerless godly weapons, shining here. All the referees, including Lan Bingrue's teacher in charge, were stunned. Everyone had the same thought. These two people are really cunning. Lan Bingrue had never used any weapon before. Coincidentally, Zhou Xiaoduo was the same. But now, the two people took out their swords one after another, and the swords they took out were both peerless godly weapons. How could people not think about the implication of this? Several referees shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Ding Xilan's face changed, and her mouth twitched. After being speechless for a long time, she murmured, "The old scoundrel met the old scoundrel. Even I was wrong." Zhou Xiaoduo's family background is not simple. It must be very powerful. The other teachers shook their heads and smiled bitterly. You are not the only one. Didn't we all make a mistake? Who would have thought that the so-called Iron Fist young master would take out a hidden weapon as his trump card? After the hidden weapon, he said that his body movement and footwork were his trump cards. And now, he was forced to take out a sword. It was totally speechless. The sword light suddenly flashed, and the two people attacked at the same time. Their attacks were totally different from before. It was like two new people were performing sword skills. The audience behind the two of them felt that something was amiss. The audience behind Zhou Xiaoduo facing Lan Bingrue only felt that they were facing an extremely cold snow mountain. The snow was falling, and it was bone-chilling. Countless mysterious ice shone in the sunlight, shining and dazzling. As for the audience behind Lan Bingrue facing Zhou Xiaoduo, they only felt a drizzle blowing against their faces. It was as if they were taking a stroll in the rain, full of warmth, gentleness, and comfort. It was indescribably comfortable. This kind of artistic conception was simply intoxicating. Although the snow and ice of Lan Bingrue were wild and the snow-capped mountains were high, they were melted little by Zhou Xiaoduo's misty rain. The process was slow, but it was very real and real. In this round of sword skill competition, Zhou Xiaoduo actually had the upper hand, and the signs of him having the upper hand were gradually becoming more and more obvious. This result shocked everyone who was watching the battle. What kind of freak is this child? Ding Xilan was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. Lan Bingrue was a little impatient. She tried 3 different sword techniques, but the sword in front of her was soft and light. Her sword technique was like the fine rain in spring. It was completely useless. It was as if there was no end to it, and it kept suppressing her sword technique. Lan Bingrue let out a long howl. She was finally enraged and shouted, "If that's the case, then come." Suddenly, a white aura surged on her face. Her whole body was covered in white mist. In just a moment, everyone in the arena felt a chill. The temperature actually dropped to below freezing point. In less than 10 breaths of time, a layer of dense white ice had appeared on the stage. This is the mysterious technique. A few high school teachers stood up at the same time and looked at the arena in shock. This little princess of the Lan family had actually cultivated the mysterious technique. Moreover, she had already achieved some success. She had already cultivated it to a higher level. This achievement was really no small matter. Shangjing's Yunwan High Martial Arts School wants this little girl from the Lan family. The teacher from Shangjing's Yunwan High Martial Arts School stared at Lan Bingrue, who had already gained control of the entire arena, with an unconcealed fondness. This kind of genius was really suitable for Yunwan High Martial Arts School. Who do you think you are? You think you are? The teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School snorted and glared at him with an unfriendly gaze. The teacher from Yunwan High Martial Arts School said indifferently, "Since you have withdrawn from the competition, you are naturally ours. However, we will return the favor with a gift. As long as you agree, we will not fight with you for the remaining geniuses, such as Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Yunqing." Ding Xilan narrowed her eyes. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School also had a change in expression. Both of them asked at the same time, "A gentleman keeps his word? A man keeps his word." The teacher from Yunwan High Martial Arts School said indifferently, "A man keeps his word. What's there to doubt?" "All right, it's settled then." Both of them agreed at the same time, as if they were afraid that the other party would go back on his word. At this moment, the temperature in the arena dropped even lower. The temperature in the arena had already dropped to below 0. It was just that it had dropped to a few dozen degrees below zero. Lan Bingrue was still continuously activating the mysterious Yin technique. Her long sword fluttered and attacked aggressively, suppressing Zhuo Duo. With a sword in one hand and a palm in the other, she flew horizontally and vertically, like a fairy flying in a world of ice and snow, exuding an icy aura. At this moment, even the edges of the arena began to be covered with icicles. Higher up, the heat of the natural weather clashed with it. From time to time, a mist would rise and dissipate. Zhuo Duo, who was the focal point of the cold attack, was already covered with frost. Even his eyebrows and hair were dyed white. However, the sword in his hand did not relax at all. He was still counterattacking with every move. He was actually stable from beginning to end and did not give an inch. The outcome has been decided. Zhuo Duo is bound to lose. Ding Xiulan looked at Zhuo Duo tenaciously fighting in the arena with heartache. She shook her head and said disappointedly, "This battle is not the fault of the battle. It is not the fault of the battle." The teacher from Hidden Dragon High School also sighed deeply. This battle of geniuses is lost because of the family background, not because of the individual. If Zhuo Duo had a set of matching martial arts, the battle would not be so one-sided. Sigh. Zhuo Duo lost this battle unjustly. A clear and long cry sounded in the arena again. Lan Bingrue's slim and tall body flew up into the sky. Her long sword suddenly emitted 9 white icy sword auras. Her right palm pushed and pulled back, and then suddenly pushed out. A storm of ice and snow was formed, falling from the sky, and the target was Zhuo Duo. The wind from the palm tore the air, making a sharp whistle. A murderous aura, biting cold, almost formed. Murderous intent. This is the mysterious Yin Ice Soul Palm. Ding Xiulan was shocked. The other referees also stood up abruptly, ready to help at any time. This palm was powerful and tyrannical, and its killing intent had already been established. If Zhuo Duo couldn't withstand it, he would be frozen into a popsicle along with his soul. The mysterious Yin Ice Soul Palm was a tyrannical killing move that wreaked havoc in the world. Too many people knew the terrifying and insidious level of this palm technique. As long as Zhuo Duo showed signs of being unable to withstand it, the judges would help. They definitely wouldn't watch a peerless genius like Zhuo Duo die like this. At this moment, Lan Bingrue, who was in the air, had a trace of regret in her eyes, but then she became determined again. Zhuo Duo's tenacity had greatly exceeded her expectations. If she did not use this trump card, she would not be able to defeat this guy in front of her. She had no choice but to push the battle to this extreme. As long as you withdraw and admit defeat, you can save your life. But if you insist on being brave, you will die. You can only blame yourself for not knowing the situation. I will not hold back this time. So what if I kill you? Right at this critical moment, an unexpected event occurred abruptly, and it caused everyone to be astounded. Because, in the area covered by the ice and snow, an explosive and furious roar suddenly appeared, piercing through the clouds and splitting rocks, shocking the heavens. At the same time, a ball of fiery red suddenly rose from the middle of the ice and snow. Zhuo Duo's voice was heard, speaking in an eerie tone. "Fiery sun." Zhuo Duo was furious. "Killing intent. I have been merciful all this time. You want to kill me?" In an instant, the fiery sun sutra reached its breaking point in his fury. Under everyone's gaze, a ball of dazzling fiery red suddenly appeared in the ice and snow field, exploding, bursting, exploding. Then, it rose up and turned into a blazing sun that was close at hand. Zhuo Duo held a sharp sword in his hand, and his whole body soared into the sky like a rising sun. The power of the sun melted and burned the ice and snow in the sky in an instant, and his whole body was surrounded by rolling heat waves. The sharp sword in his hand turned into a drizzle, and the drizzle turned into a violent storm, sweeping across the sky and earth and drowning Lan Bingrue's sword light. At the same time, Zhuo Duo's left palm, which was like a furnace soaring into the sky, collided with Lan Bingrue's mysterious Yin Ice Soul Palm without dodging. The fiery sun sutra of extreme yang. extreme heat, and extreme heat suddenly erupted, facing the mysterious Ice Soul Palm head-on. Boom! With a blood-curdling scream, Lan Bingrue was sent flying along with her sword. She flew more than 200 meters like a kite with a broken string. Her beautiful hair was completely roasted in the process of flying back. A white shadow soared into the sky like lightning and caught Lan Bingrue in his hand. His fingers were like phantoms, and he hit all the major acupoints on Lan Bingrue's body one after another. Then, he poured several elixirs and 2 bottles of potions into her body. The white shadow didn't land on the ground after saving her, but stopped in the air, holding the unconscious Lan Bingrue. He turned his head to look at Xiaoduo in the field, and said lightly, "The Fiery Sun Sutra has reappeared in the world. Not bad, not bad. You are a talent. In the future, Rue will come to you again." It was a woman's voice. Then, she said lightly, "Lan Bingrue's internal qi has reversed, and her injury is very serious. She can't be cured here. I will take her back now. Sorry for delaying the rest of the competition." Before he finished speaking, his entire body soared into the sky. Following a flash of sword light, he had already sped into the horizon and disappeared without a trace. The whole field was still steaming hot and misty. Xiaoduo quietly landed on the ground, gasping for breath. His face was flushed, and it was obvious that the operation just now had consumed a lot of energy. But for Xiaoduo, this consumption was not a problem. What really shocked him was something else. He couldn't help but raise his head and look in the direction where the woman left. At that moment, when the woman had just appeared, Xiaoduo had clearly felt an unprecedentedly sharp murderous aura enveloping his entire body. That woman just now, she also wanted to kill me? But she didn't because of the environment? Why? Chapter 348. Xiaoduo was confused. This is just a competition. Even if I severely injured your disciple, it's still a competition. Moreover, the techniques I used all belong to the Kunlun Taoist sect. Is it necessary to kill me? Xiaoduo did not regret his decision even though he had used an extreme burst of power in his last palm strike. The last palm strike might very well cause Lan Bingrue to fall, but Xiaoduo didn't care. This was because Lan Bingrue's last attack was an extreme one. She did not hold back at all. If Xiaoduo only had the strength that he had displayed previously, he would have died without a doubt after receiving that palm. Even the referee might not be able to save Xiaoduo. Xiaoduo thought that he had shown mercy from the beginning. Hidden weapons are useless? Not necessarily. Even if your clothes are extremely mysterious and don't need to be activated, with my attainments in hidden weapons, especially my strange turning skills, I really can't blind your eyes. I only use the drizzle sword to deal with you. Do you think I don't know anything else? I can turn you into a meat patty if I take out my big hammer. Xiaoduo did not even use the essence of the drizzle sword. Otherwise, Lan Bingrue would not have been able to change her sword technique so easily. In this battle, Xiaoduo did not even want to reveal his sword, let alone the Flaming Sun Sutra. Now, not only was he forced to reveal his sword by Lan Bingrue, but he also had to reveal the strength of the Flaming Sun Sutra. Although he won, Xiaoduo was still very unhappy. Sigh, I exposed 2 more trump cards. How am I going to continue? I'm almost out of trump cards. How sad. Within a radius of several thousand meters, water mist rose and filled the air, like a mushroom cloud rising into the sky and gradually disappearing. It was only after a long time that the entire spectator stand regained its vision. Apart from the few people who were closest to it, the others, even if they had excellent eyesight, could only see a flash of red light before their eyes were obscured by the rising water vapor, unable to see anything else. Well, perhaps he could vaguely hear a person say a few words in the air, but he really couldn't hear anything else. After a while, he finally saw Xiaoduo in the ring. The live stream was filled with fog, and nothing else could be seen. The only thing that was clearly heard by everyone was the words that the man said before he left. The Flaming Sun Scripture. Flaming Sun Scripture? Cough, cough. Someone coughed softly. Xiaoduo turned around and saw that all 6 referees of the competition were standing behind him. He did not know when they had all gathered together. Other than the 6 of them, there were 7 or 8 other high martial arts teachers who were standing not far away from him. At this moment, the entire place was silent. Everyone was looking at him as if he was a monster. The one who coughed just now was the horse-faced teacher, Ma Zhangxi. Teacher Ma's face was filled with disappointment and dejection. He understood that after this battle, his Huayang High Martial Arts School's dream of recruiting Zhou Xiaoduo into the school had become a wishful thinking. There was no chance of that at all. Ding Xilan's face was filled with shock. Her eyes were sparkling like a dragon who had discovered a boundless treasure. The other teacher's eyes were also shining brightly. Then, Ding Xilan and the teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School turned their heads at the same time. They looked at the teacher from Shangjing High Martial Arts School and said in unison, "Teacher Cui, your words are like the wind. You can't go back on your words. This was Xiaoduo. You've already said that you've given up on him. You can't fight with us anymore." Teacher Chui's face was filled with shock. He was stunned on the spot. Don't fight? What the fuck? If I don't fight with such a legendary genius, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death by the school's leaders when I get back. However, the words that came out of his mouth were like water that had been spilled. Teacher Chui's face was flushed red. His face and neck were red as he argued. I said that I won't fight with you. I said that I won't fight with you. Even though I'm fucking right. I said that I won't fight with you. Of course, I'm a man of my words. But just now, the principal called and said that we'll fight for him. The principal has spoken. What's the use of my words? Teacher Cui acted shamelessly on the spot. He even threw a tantrum. His mature and dignified appearance from before was completely gone. Ding Xilan and the teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School scolded in unison. Shameless. Cui Shangyan, you're a teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School. How dare you go back on your words? You said that you're a man of your words. Now, you're treating your words like farts. It stinks. Teacher Chui's face was red as he said, "It's our principal who said that. Our principal said that we'll fight for him. Your principal's face is being used by you for this." Ding Xilan snorted. Then, she took out a phone and pressed on it with her hand. Teacher Cui Shangyan's voice could be heard clearly from the phone. Our high martial arts school wants this Lan Bing Rue. As a condition, that's what Xiaoduo, Zhou Yunqing, won't fight with you. Cui Shangyan's face was pale as if he had seen a ghost. You actually recorded it? Ding Xilan's face was full of disdain. Who in the martial arts world doesn't know what kind of morals you high martial arts school have? If I didn't guard against you guys, wouldn't I have lived for so long in vain? Listen carefully, Cui Shangyan. You better listen carefully. This promise is made by you on behalf of High Martial Arts School. Listen carefully. Yes, our High Martial Arts School. May I ask what these words mean? Even if your principal really came, would he be able to change this fact? Ding Xilan was in high spirits. In this matter, your High Martial Arts School is out. Yes, your High Martial Arts School is out. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School was in high spirits. Fuck. Women are so scheming. This time, I'm lucky that I'm with a woman. Otherwise, this Cui guy would really blame me. Cui Shangyan flew into a rage and directly shed all pretense of cordiality. Was a talent more important than face? There was no need to talk about this. Even if my reputation is ruined, I'll still take this person for myself. This is an all-round talent in martial arts, and he's even mastered the Flaming Sun Manual. You guys want to force me out with just a few words? You've all gone crazy thinking about it. Shameless. Shameless. You're insane. Ding Xilan scolded. I'll announce it on the internet right now and spread it all over the world. Cui Shangyan, I'll let you stink for 3 lifetimes. Even if I stink for 10 lifetimes, I'll still take him. Cui Shangyan had nothing to lose and was completely shameless. However, he felt relaxed instead, as if he had broken through some kind of shackle, and said angrily, I'll go back on my words. So what? My words are like farts. What can you do about it? All the teachers, including Ding Xilan, were speechless.
Fuck.
The teacher from Hidden Dragon High School muttered angrily, I've helped you break through your limits. This ability to speak like farts. Zhuo Duo had just opened his eyes when all the teachers around him swarmed over and locked their gazes on him. Just as Cui Shangyan had said, in terms of ability, he was all-round in martial arts, and hidden weapons. He also had the ability to see the big picture, organize, strategize, and set up a situation. He lacked nothing. In terms of personality, he had a righteous heart, respected his teachers, and was not pedantic at all. He was flexible and quick-witted. This kind of student was an all-rounder that one could only dream of. What's more, he had mastered the legendary Flaming Sun manual. It had even elevated him to the level of a peerless monster. Not taking him in? Give up? What a joke. Even if they couldn't beat the big three, they still had to fight for him. They had to fight for him. Otherwise, when the principal saw the video, he would say, fuck, not being able to beat the big three is one reason, but you didn't even fight for such a genius. That's a sin. Who knows, he might be related to our high school. Who knows, he might have thought of coming to our school. You didn't even let out a fart? Even if he wanted to come, he wouldn't have that direction. That would be terrible. Zhuo Duo, you brat. Ha ha ha, you're quite sinister, but I like it. Ding Xilan first laughed loudly, then said affectionately, You child, why are you so scheming? Ha ha, you're really lovable. Not bad at all. The teacher from Hidden Dragon High School laughed. This is the first time I, Zhan Xiaofei, have met such a suitable student like you. He laughed heartily and said to the teachers with a sigh, Back then, there was an expert who told my fortune. He said that my name, Zhan Xiaofei, although it didn't seem very impressive, it had the ability to protect students. If one day, he met a student whose second character was also Xiao, then this student would spread his wings and soar into the sky. That's why I'm called Zhan Xiaofei. Now, it seems that I've found it. He sighed and said, This is all destined. That old immortal, a true god, said it. It was too accurate. Zhan Xiaofei, you fucking bastard. 7 or 8 teachers roared together. How could he make up a story on the spot? He actually said the second character in his name is Xiao. Could he have made it more obvious? Ha ha ha. Zhan Xiaofei is really shameless. Teacher Cui Shangyan laughed loudly and said to Zhuo Duo enthusiastically, Students Zhuo Duo, I'm the #1 teacher from Yunwan High School in the 3 big schools. My name is... You're not a bastard. The other teachers roared together. Get lost. Cui Shangyan acted as if he didn't hear anything. His expression didn't change. My name is Cui Shangyan. Compared to Zhuo future, I don't care about this face of mine. As long as Xiao Duo enters our Yunwan High School, everything is worth it. I can give up anything. The anxiety in Zhuo's heart gradually calmed down. So they're not here to pursue the matter of me lying. I seem to have said before that the Dragon Gate kick was my trump card. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel relieved. He scratched his head and said carefully, Teacher, the competition isn't over yet. 4th update, did you feel good today? Could you please vote for me? Chapter 349. You have 3 wins and 1 draw. You have already won. Why are you still fighting? There's no need to continue. Ding Xilan smiled kindly. The more she looked at Zhuo Duo, the more she liked him. She said, Xiao Duo, you don't have a girlfriend yet, right? Are you 17 or 18 this year? Let me tell you, our ancestral Dragon High School is full of beauties. Which school doesn't have a bunch of beauties? Outside, Mr. Ma Zhangxi looked up at the sky with his long face and said lightly. Ding Xilan glared at him. When she was about to continue, she heard sarcastic remarks again. The one who spoke was still Ma Zhangxi. He looked up at the sky and said, with Zhuo's looks, how could he lack beauties?
Ha ha.
Ma Zhangxi. Ding Xilan was furious. What nonsense are you spouting? Is it your Huayang High School's turn to be presumptuous here? Ma Zhangxi still looked up at the sky. He was slightly disappointed, but his tone was still light. Huayang High School is not one of the top 3 schools, but I can guarantee that we can have 3 wives and 4 concubines. From now on, I, old ma, will become a pimp. Bang! Ding Shilan couldn't take it anymore. She kicked Ma Zhangxi and flew out. Then, she jumped up and hit him again. Who couldn't understand Ma Zhangxi's words? Huayang High School was not a genius like him. Ma Zhangxi was well aware of that. His words were so explicit. He was basically mocking Ding Shilan for being a pimp. She was old. What? How could Ding Shilan not be furious? Did I give you face? Sarcastic remarks after sarcastic remarks directed at me. Wasn't it just because I tore your love letter and beat you up back then? Do you have to remember it until now? That afternoon, on the way back to the hotel, Duo and the others were accompanied by many teachers from Huang High School. After that, they went to meet them during lunchtime. At night, they would meet a few of them who would drop by. As for Hu Ruoyun and Luo Lai, they had become the most sought-after people. Duo is a child who respects his teacher. He is righteous, honest, and has a beautiful chest. A student like him would definitely respect his teacher. I believe that it would be better if his teacher spoke a few words for him. This was the common thought of all the teachers in the high school. Hu Ruoyun and Luo Lai received gifts the entire night. If they were to take them out, the room would not be able to hold them all. No matter how much he said he didn't want it, the other party still kept stuffing it into his hands. It was just a token of his sincerity. It wasn't enough to show his respect. He had to accept it. If he didn't accept it, he wouldn't be giving face. Li Chenglong and the others also basked in the limelight. Every martial arts teacher who came over would ask about the little guy's cultivation with great concern, and then casually give them some pointers. He wanted to show that he was kind and amiable, an excellent teacher who was easy to get close to and did not put on airs. What's more, Luo Yinling directly sent the admission letter to Yu Moyan. Furthermore, there were promises and all kinds of promises. The strength of the promise was far greater than expected. Li Zhongming also received the admission letter from Dragon Soul High School and also a bunch of promises. Originally, these could not be considered important. Li Chongming's battle with Shimin Daqing had already become a hot topic. Naturally, many martial arts schools had the idea of recruiting him. However, the Dragon Soul Martial Arts School had an old teacher of virtue and prestige. He himself also cultivated the Great Dream Divine technique. That year, when this teacher made a move, he made the 30,000 soldiers of the Umno Alliance fall asleep, lying on the ground and waiting to be slaughtered. It could be said that this was a legendary killing machine. Unfortunately, there was a way to break it. After that, the great senior of the Umno Alliance personally made a move. He hid in the army and pretended to be in a dream. Then, his spiritual power suddenly exploded. With a much stronger spiritual power, he broke the foundation of the Great Dream Divine technique. That was why this teacher returned to the Dragon Soul sect. Today, when he heard that a successor of the Great Dream Divine technique had appeared in the Dragon and Tiger ranking tournament, the old man almost ran over that night. Then, he gave a death order. If you don't bring this student back, the few of you who went to be the judges don't come back. If this old man loses such a successor, there's no meaning in living anymore. I might as well die and die. When the teachers of Dragon Soul High School received the news, they were almost scared to death. They ran over and almost swore to do Li Zhongming's job. In the end, it was Hu Ruoyun who helped Li Zhongming make the decision. Li Zhongming, go to Dragon Soul High School. This matter was settled. Yes, just this matter. Hu Ruoyun's spatial ring was filled up because of this, following in the footsteps of Duo. 2 sleeves of gold wind, and the quality was not inferior by much. There were also many famous schools that looked for Long Yuxing, but Long Yuxing only said one sentence. Wherever Xiao'er goes, I will go. Everyone understood this point. After all, a long-distance relationship could easily lead to a tragedy. However, Wanli Xiao was not so easy to decide. After all, she came from a huge family with a deep background, and she still had to listen to her family's opinion. It was probably because of this layer of relationship that several schools threw over 2 acceptance letters. Wherever you want to go, you can choose from them. As for Li Chenglong, his choice of school was more interesting. It could be simply summed up in one sentence. If possible, I will go wherever Zwa goes. With his swollen qualifications and his profound knowledge, Even the three famous schools would be happy to accept him. It could be said that almost no high school would reject him. The so-called Iron Straight Man and so on, not only was it not a minus point, but it was also a big plus point. However, he expressed his intention to follow Zhuo Duo, which caused some twists and turns in his future path. This was because while Zhuo Duo became popular, it also became a compromise between the high schools. It was basically impossible for a school to accept both Zhuo Duo and Li Qinglong at the same time. Once this was done, it would definitely cause a lot of dissatisfaction from the other schools. For this reason, Hu Ruoyun specially looked for Li Qinglong to have a deep talk. She even told him the original words of the old principle. Everyone should be the main character in their respective roles. Everyone should go and seize their own destiny. Don't gather together. However, Li Qinglong turned a deaf ear to all of this and did not care at all. Teacher Hu, you also know that my strength is not in my martial strength, but more in my own encyclopedic knowledge and photographic memory. And all of this, from a certain point of view, is a support. My best position is definitely not to charge and break through enemy lines, but to support. Even though my body will continue to grow stronger, I will never become a candidate for Commander-in-Chief. My position will only fall on the side of the Commander-in-Chief. Strategists, aides, and so on. Giving advice and suggestions is where I can display my abilities the most. Following Zhuo, I don't have to think about anything. Li Qinglong said, all the strategic decisions and general direction will be made by him, and I will be in charge of the details, deductions, arrangements, planning. All of this. I am not a talented commander, nor am I a talented general, and I will definitely not be the vanguard. I have always been very clear about my position. Therefore, between me and Zhuo, there is no need for any underlings, and there is also no problem of my destiny being seized. Li Qinglong appeared to be abnormally clear-headed. This is my position in life. This will never change, and it will never change. There was one thing that Swollen did not say. It was that Zhuo's Flaming Sun Sutra was of great benefit to Li Qinglong. Even if it was just practicing by Zhuo's side, Swollen could still improve by leaps and bounds. You want me to quit being Zhuo's underling? Even if a god came, it would be impossible. I'm definitely hugging this thigh. Hu Ruoyun also felt a lot of emotions after hearing Li Qinglong's long-winded speech. Since Li Qinglong had already made up his mind, his position was clear, and he had reason and evidence. Hu Ruoyun did not say anything more, but she felt a little strange in her heart. This world-famous brother Steele actually said that he was actually just a support and wanted to be the man besides Zhuo Duo. Why did this make people feel strange when they heard it? The top four had been smoothly decided. Phoenix City second high, Water City first high, Fenghai third high, and Phoenix Tail first high. Yangluo first high, who was ranked second on the hot list to win the championship, actually did not lose much of their true strength after the battle with Phoenix City second high. However, their trump card, Lan Bingrue, was gone, and they lost their strongest combat power. This was the main reason why they swept out of the top four. Although Fenghai third high lost to Water City first high, they drew lots to face Yangluo first high again and won. In the end, it was still Phoenix Tail against Songshan. After another round, Phoenix Tail first high still won. At this point, Phoenix Tail first high successfully entered the top four and created a historical ranking for their school. The higher-ups and students of Phoenix Tail first high knew very well that their school was already at its limit. It was destined to be impossible for them to take another step forward. The defeated Songshan first high still needed to fight with Yangluo first high to determine the 5th and 6th rankings. However, no one cared about that anymore. The top four drew lots. Phoenix City second high against Fenghai third high. Water City first high against Phoenix Tail first high. Half a morning later, the two battles were over. Phoenix City second high and Water City first high won one after another. The champion and runner-up would be between the two teams. The third place would be between Fenghai third high and Phoenix Tail first high. Phoenix Tail first high realized that the situation that was beneficial to them did not appear and could not help but be disappointed. It was probably because no one had suffered much damage in the semifinals. The scene of Phoenix City second high beating up Fenghai third high did not appear, nor did they cripple Fenghai third high. In this way, they would be facing a complete Fenghai third high school. The two sides were not on the same level at all. How could they not be disappointed? However, Phoenix Tail First High was satisfied after picking up all the advantages along the way. There was no need for the students to go up and lose face again and be beaten up. Therefore, after the school's higher-ups discussed it, they made a joint decision: admit defeat and give up on the last round of the competition. Therefore, the third place of this year's Longhu list was released first. Furthermore, it was released 3 days earlier than the champion and runner-up. This matter was also a historical precedent. This made everyone feel disappointed and frustrated. Fortunately, there was still the battle between the champion and runner-up to watch, so it was not too disappointing. Chapter 350. Everyone was looking forward to the Battle of the Champions 3 days later, which was the 5th of September. Yes, that's right, it was the 5th of September. The competition started on the 18th, and it had been 15 days since then. This date had been set long ago. The 5th of September would be the finals of the champions and runners-up. The winner would be crowned as the emperor. Only the Central Plains had the right to hold the finals on the 5th of September. No other regions could do it. Not even the martial arts competition in Shangjing could. Since ancient times, there was a saying that established the transcendent status of the Central Plains. Fight for the throne in the Central Plains. Only by winning the battle for the throne in the Central Plains could one become the emperor. In other regions, they weren't qualified and didn't count. Only the last competition was left. 3 more days. After getting 3 days of rest, the 6 from Phoenix City gave up on cultivating and went out to play. Nanji City was very big, and there were many fun places to play. For them, who had never been to this city before, it was still very attractive. Luolai followed them out, but Hu Ruoyun didn't follow them. She stayed behind to summarize what she had seen and learned. Regarding this summary, she wrote it very thoroughly, meticulously. From the champion teams and their students, we can deduce the strengths and weaknesses of their schools, as well as the areas where they are stronger than us. From the current situation of the participating teams, we can analyze the current situation of the schools and combine it with last year's ranking and this year's ranking. We can make up for our shortcomings by summarizing them. We can work hard for the future. Zhua Xiaoduo, Li Qinglong, Long Yusheng. These kinds of genius students don't appear every year. The most important reason for this is that teacher Qin Fengyang burned his own soul to pass on his knowledge to his students. The excellent results this time were just a coincidence, a result of a moment of luck. We must be vigilant against wishful thinking. We must go around inspecting retired and disabled soldiers. Those who are qualified will be given a letter of appointment to become a lecturer in the school. We must nurture the mighty iron and blood spirit of the students. There was a lot more. Hu Ruoyun racked her brain and wrote down everything she had seen, heard, and analyzed bit by bit. We may not be able to enter the High Martial Arts Academy, but the students of the High Martial Arts Academy are all sent over by schools like ours. We work hard to ensure that the talents we send out are the best. Even if his martial prowess is slightly lacking, his character must be of the highest quality. The old principal's wish is truly insightful. We may not be able to do as well as the old principal, but we can turn our efforts into results bit by bit and gradually build perfection. The plan is as follows. She had been writing since the morning, and had been writing all day, stopping to rest when she was tired, or looking out of the window and meditating, and then going on. It wasn't until his stomach rumbled that he felt hungry. He looked up and saw that the sky had darkened. Only then did he stop. She immediately felt that there was something wrong beside her. She saw that teacher Ding Xiaolan of the Ancestral Dragon was right beside her. She was looking at Hu Ruoyun with eyes full of admiration and respect. "Mr. Ding, when did you arrive?" Hu Ruoyun was a little shocked. "Why didn't I notice it at all? I've been here for almost a day." Ding Xiaolan exclaimed in admiration. "I've been watching you write for a whole day. Teacher Hu's notes. Every word is a gem. You have great foresight and meticulous thoughts. Overflowing with talent is not enough to describe you." "Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Ding. Hu Ruoyun was a little embarrassed by the compliment. It's not a compliment at all. Ding Shilan's eyes were burning. Teacher Hu, only someone like you can be called a real teacher. You teach and educate people, and you're a role model. You deserve all of our respect. She pondered for a moment and said, Teacher Hu, I wonder if you're interested in coming to Shangjing's Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts Academy? I believe that with a talent like you, if you go to Ancestral Dragon, you'll definitely be able to play a greater role and educate talents better. Hu Ruoyun laughed. You're too kind, Mr. Ding. You want me, a person who has been crippled for many years and just started over, to go to Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts Academy to teach? Haha, how am I qualified? No, you're qualified. You're more qualified than anyone else. Ding Shilan said seriously and solemnly, Teacher Hu, I'm sincerely inviting you. I'm not being hypocritical. No. Hu Ruoyun shook her head firmly and refused. A gentle smile appeared on her face. I promised the old principal that I would take good care of Phoenix City's second high school. What a pity. Ding Shilan requested, Teacher Hu, you've already finished writing these. Can you let me make a copy and bring it back? Hu Ruoyun hesitated for a moment and said, As long as Teacher Ding doesn't mind, I'm fine with it. Ding Shilan felt as if she had received a treasure. Thank you, Teacher Hu. Let's go. I'll treat you to a meal. How can I accept that? Of course. Okay. Ding Shilan went to make a copy first. Then, the two of them found a quiet and secluded shop. They listened to the gentle music and chatted quietly. Both of them felt very comfortable. I wonder where Xiao Duo and the others have run off to play now. After eating for a while, Hu Ruoyun could not help but start to worry about her students when night fell. You don't have to worry about them. Ding Shilan smiled and said, Now, those children are the treasures in the eyes of the various high martial arts universities. Dozens of high martial arts teachers have followed and protected them the moment they went out today. How could anything happen to them? Hu Ruoyun pursed her lips and smiled. That's why I didn't go out. Just now, I couldn't help but nag a little when I saw that it was already late. Ding Shilan smiled and said, Teacher Hu, I have a favor to ask of you. Hu Ruoyun smiled faintly. You want to know more about Xiao Duo? Ding Shilan nodded repeatedly. There's nothing wrong with that. Hu Ruoyun sighed softly. Xiao Duo, this child has a hard life. What do you mean by that? Ding Shilan was immediately interested. Ding Shilan was a high martial arts teacher. Regardless of cultivation, strength, identity, or background, she was extraordinary. Her sharp eyes were unique. Based on her understanding of Xiao Duo and her judgment and inference, even if Xiao Duo's background was not as good as Lan Bingrui's, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Just based on his mastery of the three martial arts of the Kunlun Taoist sect, his mastery of rare divine weapons, and his success in cultivating the Flaming Sun divine skill, it was reasonable to say that Xiao Duo was a seed disciple carefully cultivated by an ancient martial arts family. If I told you that all of his achievements were achieved in a short period of time, and that he was just a martial disciple half a year ago, how would you feel? Hu Ruoyun smiled bitterly and said sadly, This child, these years have been really hard. How is this possible? Ding Shilan exclaimed and stood up. She couldn't help but raise her voice a little, which attracted the attention of the guests at the surrounding tables. Ding Shilan hurriedly sat back down and quietly waited for Hu Ruoyun to continue. This is true, it's not a lie. Hu Ruoyun said sadly, Why do you think Xiao Duo seems to be afraid of me? It's not fear, it's respect. I watched him walk over every day. At that time, my cultivation was destroyed, so I could only teach the martial disciple class. And Xiao Duo in my class stayed back for 5 years. Ding Shilan was stunned by these words. Now, Xiao Duo, who appeared out of nowhere and dominated the competition, actually stayed back for 5 years in the martial disciple class? I don't know what happened to his astral souls, but it was suppressed, and he couldn't break through. In the 5 years he stayed back, he put in a lot more effort than ordinary people. In Hu Ruoyun's words, Xiao Duo was like a painting that slowly unfolded in front of Ding Shilan. He was strong, tenacious, endured humiliation, was indomitable, righteous, looked at the big picture, respected his teachers, loved to protect the weak, worked hard to the extreme, shouldered all the pressure by himself, and smiled as if he didn't care about it. In a private room separated from the two of them, the Hidden Dragon high school teacher Zhang Xiaofei pricked up his ears, carefully listening to the conversation. His face was full of lingering fear. When he said, half a year ago he was still a martial disciple, he couldn't help but hit the table. Fortunately, Ding Shilan's side made more noise and covered it. But he still had lingering fear. Sure enough, it's easier for women to get close to each other. Luckily, I found out in time and followed her out. Today, I took the right step. I didn't expect Zhuo Duo to have such a hard time. He's a good seedling, a good child. With this experience, his state of mind will be much higher than his peers. No one can compare to him. Zhang Xiaofei was deep in thought, but he was even more careful and didn't make any sound. Ding Shilan came to find Hu Ruoyun to understand the situation. It could be said that she found the right person, but it could also be said that she found the wrong person. The so-called right person meant that in this world, there was no one who could understand Zhuo Duo better than Hu Ruoyun. Even Zhuo Changlu, Wu Yuding, and Zhuo Xiaoyan didn't know as much as Hu Ruoyun in this aspect. From Hu Ruoyun, one could understand an extremely comprehensive and complete Zhuo Duo. But to say that she found the wrong person, it was because what she understood from Hu Ruoyun was a Zhuo Duo who had no flaws at all. He was almost like a saint. For someone like Zhuo Duo, from Hu Ruoyun to understand him, it was completely different. The Zhuo Duo in Hu Ruoyun's mouth and the real Zhuo Duo were totally different, but all of Hu Ruoyun's words were from the bottom of her heart. Because in her eyes, Zhuo Duo was such a perfect child. She couldn't find any flaws in him at all. This was the truth in Hu Ruoyun's eyes. The only one in the world, the best in the world, without any flaws, was Zhuo Duo. He was just a little mischievous, but was that a flaw? That was a merit. Chapter 351. On the day Xiao Duo broke through to martial warrior, I cried when I got home. It's really not easy for this child. Hu Ruoyun blushed and said embarrassedly, in my last year in class, Xiao Duo was already 8 meters tall. The other children were only 2 meters. That awkwardness, sigh. As a woman, Ding Shilan was naturally a very emotional person. Hearing this, her eyes also reddened. She could empathize with her. It's really not easy, this child. Just half a year ago, I sent Xiao Duo to the martial warrior class. Xiao Duo was already at the door, but he rushed back and hugged me. He said in my ear, "Teacher Hu, thank you." Hu Ruoyun's eyes were filled with tears. She choked and said, "I think I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life. I don't know if it's because of his accumulation or something else, but ever since Xiao Duo broke through to martial warrior, he suddenly began to improve by leaps and bounds. In just a week, he broke through from martial warrior to martial master. Then, he quickly advanced to the peak of martial master." Ding Shilan opened her mouth, but she didn't ask. She wanted to ask if this was too fast, and if it was hard to strengthen his foundation, it wouldn't be good for long-term planning. However, after thinking about it, she still chose to listen. Just as he was about to lose control of his breakthrough and break through to Xiantian, his homeroom teacher, Teacher Qin Fangyang forcefully interrupted his breakthrough. Hu Ruoyun said, "Good. Well done." Ding Shilan couldn't help but applaud. This teacher Qin did a good job. Then, Hu Ruoyun hesitated. Ding Shilan's heart was itching. She couldn't help but ask, then how many times did Zhuo Duo suppress his inner yuan to break through in the martial master realm? On the other side, Zhang Xiaofei instantly raised his cultivation to the extreme. His ears almost grew out of their sockets as he concentrated. This question was too critical, too urgent. Hu Ruoyun hesitated even more and didn't answer for a long time. This kind of huge problem of the student's foundation was not something that could be casually discussed. However, the other party was a teacher from one of the top 3 martial arts universities. It was related to Zhuo Duo's future, and it was also related to whether or not he was valued in school, And to what extent? And after a long time, Hu Ruoyun lowered her voice and said, as far as I know, at least 14 or 15 times. Pooh! Ding Xiaolan spat out a mouthful of coffee. She was so shocked that her eyes widened. 10, 14 or 15 times. Teacher Hu, this 9 is the limit. Sorry. She had originally planned to suppress it 5 or 6 times in such a short period of time, and that was already her limit. They were all prepared to praise him. What a genius! In the end, it turned out to be 14 or 15 times, and that was the least. Not only did he fail to say the words he had prepared, but he also spat out coffee all over Hu Ruoyun's body. She hurriedly apologized and took out a napkin in a flurry. On the other side, Zhang Xiaofei was doing the same thing. He covered his mouth and tried his best to endure the coughing. He endured it so much that he rolled his eyes and didn't dare to make a sound. Scared me to death. Since ancient times, who could suppress the true essence agitation more than 10 times? This was Xiao Duo, however, did it directly to 14 or 15 times. What the fuck? This could no longer be described as a monstrous genius. It could only be described with the word fuck.
This matter is true.
Hu Ruoyun calmly wiped the coffee on her body and said, this point, Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang all know. Based on the time, when he was about to break through, didn't he have to suppress it once or twice a day? Ding Xiaolan still felt that it was inconceivable, so she asked. Yes. Hu Ruoyun nodded. No wonder he could carry a weight of more than 10,000 pounds and jump around as if nothing was wrong. Ding Xiaolan muttered, this is really too shocking. Hu Ruoyun smiled faintly and said, this child has always been low-key. When he was in school, he always carried a weight of 70,000 pounds and entered the 50x gravity room to cultivate. Ding Xiaolan, who originally felt numb from the shock and wanted to drink coffee to calm down, spat out another mouthful of coffee. Then she coughed again, choking her eyes until they were straight. Finally, Hu Ruoyun learned her lesson and did not spit out the second mouthful of coffee. Ding Xiaolan, who was still coughing, suddenly frowned. Then she floated up and shouted, who? It was Zhang Xiaofei, who was on the other side, who was shocked for the second time, choking and coughing. Ding Xiaolan immediately noticed it, and he reacted quickly. He immediately felt that something was wrong, but when he was about to leave, Ding Xiaolan had already pounced on him. A ray of sword light appeared, and its power was approaching. Zhang Xiaofei hurriedly stood up and waved his hands. Don't fight, don't fight. We're on the same side. On the same side. Seeing that it was him, Ding Xiaolan did not know that she was being followed. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time, and even a little hysterical. This bastard. He saw all of this mother's loss of self-control and even eavesdropped on my exclusive information. Suddenly, a violent emotion rushed to her head. Who is on the same side as you? Go and die. Despicable and shameless old bastard. The power of the sword light did not decrease, but increased instead. It rushed down violently, revealing a dense killing intent. Zhang Xiaofei saw the situation and knew that it was not good. He shouted and used all his strength to stomp a big hole in the floor. His body fell down and he laughed loudly. I won't fight with you. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. I'll have to trouble Teacher Ding to compensate. The last sentence came from thousands of meters away. He actually left in defeat. Anyway, he knew what he should and shouldn't know. This was enough. If he didn't leave, was he waiting for the tigress to flip out? Bastard! Looking at the dusty hole, the whole shop was in a mess, and there were all kinds of loud exclamations. Ding Xiaolan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. In the end, she could only walk back resentfully and say angrily, it's Zhang Xiaofei from the Hidden Dragon High School. This bastard, he's too rude. He's secretly hid here to listen to our private conversation. Sigh, I'm so angry. Hu Ruoyun's eyes lit up. Is it Teacher Zhang from the Hidden Dragon High School? That's really great. This sentence was really what she thought in her heart, and she couldn't help but blurt it out. In Ding Xiaolan's ears, there was no need to mention how it felt. She was too embarrassed to flare up, so she could only sulk. She was so angry that her breasts grew a cup size. Duo and the others went out to play. Many high school teachers secretly followed them, afraid that something would happen to these precious children. Then, many people guessed where these guys would go to play. But they didn't know that the 6 of them had already discussed at the hotel entrance. Wanli Xiu said, "Why don't we go buy clothes? It's my treat. No matter what you want to buy, I'll pay for it." The other 5 shook their heads neatly, like 5 puppies shaking their heads together. Not going. No one was willing to take advantage of such a ready-made bargain. Even Duo, who valued money more than life, was no exception. They knew that if there were only 5 boys shopping together, it would only take a snap of the fingers to spend money. But if there was another girl, it would be hard to say if there was enough time in the day. Not only would it consume money, but it would also consume their feet, shoes, and spirit. Li Chenglong suggested, "Let's go bungee jumping. I heard that Nanji City's bungee jumping facilities are very famous. Everyone who comes here for the first time will try it." The 5 of them shook their heads together. "Do you still think you're an ordinary person? Everyone can jump more than 100 meters with a casual jump. What bungee jumping?" Duo said, "I bungee jump hundreds of times a day. I'm already tired of it." Yu Moyan suggested, "Why don't we go play with guns?" The 5 of them shook their heads. They were all experts in cultivation, so they weren't interested in this kind of thing. In the end, it was Duo who suggested, "Let's go to the amusement park." Amusement park? Everyone shook their heads in secret. This was even more unreliable. Only children would play there, right? How old are you? Why do you still want to go to the amusement park? Unexpectedly, when the other 5 heard this suggestion, they were unusually happy. They unanimously agreed and led the way in high spirits. The martial arts teachers looked at this scene with blank eyes. They felt that their worldview had been shattered, and they couldn't understand it. However, they could only secretly follow the few of them to the amusement park. They saw a few tall and burly fellows riding the merry-go-round. They swayed up and down on the merry-go-round, laughing uncontrollably and making all kinds of strange sounds on purpose, causing people to cry out in surprise. After playing for a long time, they reluctantly went to line up for the pirate ship. Then, they went to ride the roller coaster. They made a big fuss all the way to the finish line. After that, 6 of them lined up, holding small bamboo poles, and went to the man-made pond to fish. They fished for half an hour without moving, but they still didn't catch a single fish. All the rides in the amusement park were happily played by these fellows, but they still didn't have enough. Li Chenglong, who had the most fun, suggested, "Why don't we come back tomorrow and play for another day?" He immediately received unanimous agreement. Many of the martial arts teachers fell silent. After a long time, they sighed. They almost didn't have a childhood, right? One of the teachers was silent for a long time and suddenly said, "That's probably it." After sighing together, they all felt an inexplicable sadness in their hearts. Perhaps ordinary people and children who didn't have the aptitude for cultivation would be tired of these rides and wouldn't want to play anymore. However, Duo and the others had never played them before. This was the trajectory of a martial artist's life. It was the same from childhood to adulthood. Then, the 6 of them started a rock-paper-scissors game. Whoever lost would have to treat them to a meal. In the end, Duo lost, and this fellow began to act shamelessly. He was captured by the 5 of them and escorted to a restaurant while laughing and chatting happily. They are really close. They didn't come together because of this tournament. One of the teachers was envious. Yeah, how could Duo lack this little money? Acting shamelessly is just a joke. Another teacher said, "That's right. Duo doesn't look like a stingy person." The 6 of them ate until their bellies were round. After they came out of the restaurant, they sat quietly at the Spirit Spring Square and enjoyed the night view. They looked at the old men, old women, middle-aged people who were dancing in the square, and children who were giggling as they ran around in the crowd. They looked at the colorful neon lights around them. They looked at it quietly. Chapter 352. It was 10 o'clock at night when they went back to the hotel to sleep. Early the next morning, The 6 of them went to the amusement park again and played the whole day. When they were on the roller coaster again, they heard Xiaoduo scolding. I was wondering why we were so slow today. Yu Moyan, put away your weights. Yu Moyan looked like he had committed a crime and quickly moved. They even brought weights when they came out to play. A teacher sighed. How could it be a coincidence to have such achievements? In the shadows, a graceful figure looked enviously at Xiaoduo and the others who were playing around. She said faintly, Master, I've never played this before. On the other side, the other shadow sighed and didn't say anything for a long time. For 3 consecutive days, Xiaoduo and the other 5 spent their days in the amusement park, yelling and shouting as they played. Every day, they played until the amusement park closed. On the last day, the 6 of them still walked out of the amusement park reluctantly. Looking at the closed gate, the 6 of them stood in front of it silently for a long time. After a long time, they finally turned and left. Along the way, the 6 of them were silent. No one said a word. A few of them even looked back as they walked, looking at the amusement park that was getting further and further away. The 6 of them knew clearly in their hearts that in this lifetime, they would probably never be able to enjoy themselves as much as they had in the past 3 days. This kind of place didn't belong to them. It was already a privilege to have these 3 days. In the future, they probably wouldn't have another chance to come here. Even if they did, it wouldn't be as neat as today. When the Longhu ranking tournament ended, they would all go to the higher martial arts college to study. It was a foregone conclusion that they would be separated from each other. Each of them had their own life, their own opportunities, their own pursuits, their own battles, and their own lives. In fact, it was extremely difficult for the 6 of them to gather together in an orderly manner. The 6 of them walked on the road in silence. The streetlights stretched their shadows. Under the high light, sometimes the shadows of the 6 bodies merged together, and sometimes they were separated, each drawing a long and narrow shadow. Xiaoduo laughed and said, Is there a need to be so silent and sad? Let me teach you a song to make you feel more sad. The others forced themselves to be spirited and smiled. All right, please begin your performance, Xiaoduo said softly as he walked in silence. All these years, I've been alone. The wind has passed, the rain has gone. Friends walk together for a lifetime. Those days will no longer exist. A sentence, a lifetime of love, a cup of wine. Friends have never been lonely. You will understand when I call you a friend. There are also wounds, there is also pain, there is also you, there is also me. Xiaoduo sang softly, over and over again. Slowly, Wan Lixu joined in, then Long Yuxing, Li Qinglong, and finally Yu Moyan. Xiaoduo had forgotten how many times he had sung the song. Anyway, everyone had learned it and could sing it completely. Everyone's eyes were red as they sang in a low voice. Especially the lines, friends walk together for a lifetime. Those days will no longer exist. They all sang with tears streaming down their faces. Wan Lixu's eyes were red as she said, Zua, you must send me the complete score of this song. In addition, you have to play it for me once, just for me alone. No problem, no problem. Zua Xiaoduo laughed. Suddenly, he opened his hands and strode forward, shouting at the top of his voice as he sang, A sentence, a lifetime of love, a cup of wine. The sadness of the 5 people behind him was suddenly driven away by his strange appearance. They laughed and chased after him, joining in the chorus of singing loudly. There was a series of strange cries. At this time, a window on the tall building next to them suddenly opened, and a man's voice was full of impatience. He scolded, A group of little bastards, why are you not sleeping in the middle of the night? Go home and sleep. Believe it or not, I will beat you up. Xiaoduo screamed, Are you going to be beaten up? Run. Before his voice died away, he was already the first to run. Run. The 5 people followed Xiaoduo and ran back to the hotel. They all laughed until tears came out of their eyes. Several high school teachers stopped in the air above the hotel. Do you think we should set up some roller coasters or something in the school? Why do I suddenly feel so pitiful when I look at this group of children? They don't have anything that ordinary children can have, murmured a teacher. Another person laughed and said, When you see them live for tens of thousands of years, you won't feel so pitiful anymore. You're just arguing. How dare you say that each of them has tens of thousands of years to live? At present, they are still pitiful after all. No matter how talented they are and how good their cultivation is, they are still children after all, and they are already facing death. The previous teacher sighed and said, I just heard that there was an ordinary child upstairs who was still playing games all night. His body is so weak that I can't even read it. Yeah, it's better to read a novel. Another teacher said, there's a person called Wind Conquers the World who wrote it quite well. He's recognized as the world's best. Recognized as the world's best? Is that for real? I'll go take a look when I have time and join a few Golden Alliance or something. I'm not short of money. I've been watching them play for the past 3 days. Other than feeling sorry for them, I also feel that it's quite enjoyable. It's as if I've played with them once. One of the teachers was reminiscing. He touched his chin and said, when I have time, I'll go sit on that wooden horse too. It seems that it's quite interesting. After receiving a large wave of rolling eyes, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. The next morning, the First Division's venue had been renovated and the arena was erected high. Red decorations hung on all sides. The battle between the champion and the runner-up was about to begin. The battle between the champion and the runner-up was a best-of-7 system. 6 people would fight for 7 rounds. The first 4 rounds could not have the same person. In other words, one person was not allowed to defeat the entire field. One powerhouse was not allowed to carry a team and even win the championship. At the same time, the candidates for the first 4 rounds had to be planned and submitted before the first person appeared. The order could not be changed. No one was allowed to change the person. Violators would be disqualified. In the last 3 rounds, they could send their own people. However, even in the last 3 rounds, one person could only fight at most 2 rounds. All the high martial arts teachers surrounded the entire arena. They wanted to get a closer look at the real battle between the geniuses. Whether it was Water City No. 1 High School or Phoenix City No. 2 High School, they were the best of the best. It could be said that even the weakest person in these 2 teams, with the aptitude of astral souls, would be able to enter the list of seeded contestants of the 3 high martial arts schools. Relatively speaking, Phoenix City No. 2 High School was more popular. The captain, Zhuoxiao Duo, was known as Brother Crotch Kick. The vice-captain, Li Chenglong, was popular. The dream technique Li Changming became famous in one battle. Yu Moyan was silent and sharp. Long Yuxing was outstanding and a hero among women. The most important point was that Water City No. 1 High School had once fought Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School and lost on the spot. However, Phoenix City No. 2 High School defeated Hidden Dragon No. 1 High School in its strongest state. This gave people a feeling that Water City No. 1 High School was most likely not the opponent of Phoenix City No. 2 High School. Even the members of Water City No. 1 High School had this thought. The curtain opened. The 2 teams entered the arena. For a time, the audience cheered loudly, one after another, endlessly. Countless long guns, short guns, and flashing lights made Zhuoxiao Duo blind. In an instant, he had a subtle feeling that he had become a big star. He almost wanted to shake his butt on the stage and sing a song. On the opposite side, the 6 people from Water City No. 1 High School were all dressed in snow-white clothes. A sharp aura came from them. The 12 people stood facing each other from a distance. Zhuoxiao Duo and Zhou Yunqing, the captain of Water City No. 1 High School, took a step forward together. The others did not move. I am the captain, Zhuoxiao Duo. This is our vice-captain, Li Chenglong. This is Long Yuxing, Wanli Xiu, Li Changming, and Yu Moyan. Zhuoxiao Duo introduced them one by one with perfect articulation. There was a loud shout in the stands. Brother Iron and Steel is mighty. Zhuoxiao Duo frowned, glanced at Li Chenglong fiercely, and said angrily, Swollen, go back and wait for me. Li Chenglong felt wronged. What did I do to you? You stole my limelight. Zhuoxiao Duo said bitterly. I am the captain, but you didn't call my name or Iron Fist young master. Who will take the blame if not you? Li Chenglong. On the opposite side, Zhou Yunqing showed a smile on his face. Captain Zhua, you don't have to deliberately remind us like this. We won't remember your name, Iron Fist young master. Zhou Yunqing couldn't help but laugh in his heart. At this time, you still want to use Iron Fist young master to fool people. Do you want us to think that you are really unparalleled? Don't worry, we will never be fooled. No matter who picks you, they won't fight with you. They will just admit defeat. I am the captain of Water City's first squadron, Zhou Yunqing. This is our vice captain, Yin Quanglei. This is Fang Juexiao. This is Ling Feixue. This is Yu Yin and the last one is Pai Bao. Zhou Yunqing introduced the last person and obviously paused. Just as Xiao Duo and the others were puzzled, they finally heard the last person's name. All 6 of them widened their eyes at the same time. Pai Bao. This name. Really? Sounds good. Xiao Duo burst out laughing. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he really couldn't help it. Listening to the first 5 names, they sounded good, poetic, and imposing. However, when he heard the last name, he really didn't know what to do and suddenly lost his composure. Captain Zhou, you almost sprained my waist with your sudden coquettishness. Xiao Duo shook his head and sighed. Then, he said to Pai Bao, Brother Pai, I am really not laughing at you. We are heroes, and we never use our names to make fun of you. Pai Bao's wrinkled face trembled, and his 4 wrinkles bloomed into a chrysanthemum-like smile. He said, It's okay. It's okay. I'm used to it since I was young.
Cough, cough.
This smile almost made Xiao Duo lose his soul. It didn't look like a chrysanthemum at all, but it really did look like one, cough, cough, the monthly ticket, the recommendation ticket. Chapter 353. The introductions were over. The 2 captains returned to their respective teams. The 12 of them saluted to each other at the same time. In Shuaicheng No. 1 Middle School, everyone was dressed in white. They were taller than snow, and their figures were tall and straight. Well, except for the last person, the first 5 people were handsome men and beautiful women, forming a beautiful scenery. The moment they bowed at the same time, there was an inexplicable cold and sharp chi, like a snow mountain suddenly lowering its head. Their momentum was amazing. As for Phoenix City No. 2 High School, when they bowed, the big words, Phoenix City No. 2 High School, were revealed behind the 6 people. It was especially eye-catching. It was so tacky. This strong contrast made the teachers of the high school who were watching the battle behind Xiaoduo's team almost laugh out loud. Have you drafted the list of participants? Ding Shilan asked. The referees of this competition were almost all familiar people. They were from the 3 high schools and 6 teachers. Yes, they were right. The 6 referees were all from the 3 high schools. The other schools didn't even get a spot. Ma Zhangxi, who was standing at the side, grimaced from time to time. His face was full of indignation. Ordinary high school students didn't have human rights. Ma Zhangxi wanted to shout, but he didn't dare to. He was afraid that he would be beaten. I, Ma Lao-san, knew better than to fight when the odds were against me. It's done. It's done. It's done a long time ago. Xiaoduo happily walked over and handed over his team's name list. He said sweetly, Teachers, why do you all look so familiar? Don't tell me you've been working overtime for the past few days? Take care of your body. It's really too tiring. Ding Shilan said with a loving face, It's rare for you to be so considerate. Look, I've prepared food. As she spoke, she took out a bag of melon seeds and asked, Do you want to eat? Xiaoduo laughed dryly. I don't dare to eat. When you're done, I'll treat you, Ding Shilan said. Zhan Xiaofei coughed. Teacher Ding, mind your image. Immediately after, he said in an amiable tone, Xiaoduo, you can do it. Xiaoduo nodded repeatedly with a simple and honest look on his face. He smiled and said, Teacher Zhan, you look much better today than you did a few days ago. Zhan Xiaofei was overjoyed and said, Really? You even know how to read people's complexion? Xiaoduo said, I know a little. Actually, I'm best at reading faces. With your physiognomy, you're destined to be famous in the future. You have a good physiognomy. Zhan Xiaofei's eyes narrowed, and his heart was bursting with joy. Is that so? Ha ha ha, if it's possible, let me take a good look. My name shakes the world. Is it because I took in a good student? On the other side, Cui Shangyan's face was full of dissatisfaction. Teacher Zhan, is this the time to chat? Pay attention to your manners. Zhou Xiaoduo said obediently, hello, Teacher Cui. Thank you for your hard work. Cui Shangyan smiled like a flower. Xiaoduo, did you sleep well last night? I heard that he went to the amusement park for the past few days. When you come to Shangjing, I'll take you to the amusement park there. It's much bigger than here. You'll definitely be able to enjoy yourself. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes lit up. Really? Of course it's true. Cui Shangyan introduced excitedly. Let me tell you, the amusement park in Shangjing inside. Just as he was about to give an example to encourage Zhou Xiaoduo's interest, he remembered that he had never been to an amusement park before. He was completely ignorant about the facilities there, so it was hard for him to say anything. He forcefully changed the topic and said, it's really fun inside. In the bar, there are many beautiful ladies. Their clothes. On the side, Ding Xilan and Zhan Xiaofei roared at the same time. Cui Shangyan, you shameless person. Are you trying to teach your child bad things?
Cough, cough.
Cui Shangyan didn't care at all and just smiled. My words were like farts, so why should I care? So what if I don't want Bai Lian? He continued to smile and said, little duo, as long as you really come, I will take you wherever you want to go. Whatever you want to play, I will take you to play. Zhan Xiaofei looked up and sighed. He's really like a girl. The first time he's so shy and unwilling, but after the first time, he doesn't care anymore. This Cui Shangyan. Ding Xilan raised her eyebrows and said angrily, Zhan Xiaofei, what do you mean? Cui Shangyan's shamelessness is his own business. What does it have to do with a girl? If you don't know how to speak, then shut your stinky mouth. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at them. I'm just here to flatter them. I don't mean anything else. Why did they start fighting? The smell of gunpowder was getting stronger. Teacher, I'll go back and prepare for the competition. He slipped away, wiping his sweat on the way. That place was really too dangerous. Yes, good luck. The 5 judges said together. Zhou Xiaoduo handed in the name list. It took a full 10 minutes. After a few rounds of greetings, Zhou Yunqing stood at the side and waited. He was not anxious at all. His expression did not change at all. Zhou Xiaoduo could not help but praise him in his heart. Don't underestimate the greetings before the competition. Politeness, etiquette, respect, chatting. As long as the teacher responded, no matter if it was 1 sentence or 2, the other team students would be ignored. And out of respect for the teacher who was speaking, the other teachers would not interrupt at this time. The other team could only awkwardly stand at the side and wait under the watchful eyes of everyone. Don't underestimate this short period of time. It was a huge blow to a person's psyche. Countless people were watching. This was a live broadcast. I'm just going to stand here like an idiot? How embarrassing. First, he felt disgusted. Why are you so troublesome, Zhou Xiaoduo? Are you deliberately trying to intimidate me? Aren't you just trying to create an opportunity to ignore me by talking over there? Then, he became more and more angry. His mouth is so sweet. What should I do? Should I greet him? Would it have the opposite effect of making a fool of himself? But if I don't greet him, will the teacher think of me? If I don't greet him, I'll be nervous. Will the teacher be dissatisfied with me? If I greet him, I'll be even more annoyed. Why should I imitate him? And the teacher's reaction after greeting him would trigger countless thoughts. If he was enthusiastic, it would be fine. If he was indifferent or ignored him, he would start to think again, and so on. I won't go into detail. And all of this should not have happened. Everyone went up together, handed in the name list, and came back immediately. There was no need to think about anything. But because of Zhou Xiaoduo's words, it triggered all of this. It was a pressure even for adults, let alone a group of half-grown children. In the previous few matches, Zhou Xiaoduo's opponents were almost all affected. And this move was an open and above-board trick. I can lower my face, can you? Even if you can, I'll be the first to take advantage of you. Even if you beat me to it, I can still say it better than you. When did Masters would care about his face? As long as he could defeat his opponent, he would spare no effort. But the captain of Shui City First High School was not affected at all. He just stood there and waited calmly. There was no fluctuation in his heart at all. This was the first time that Zhuo Xiaoduo's trick had failed. "Teacher, this is our name list. Please take a look." Zhou Yunqing strode forward with his head held high and handed over the name list with both hands. "Okay." Ding Xilan took it. "Yunqing, you can do it." "Thank you, teacher." Zhou Yunqing bowed and walked back. Zhuo Xiaoduo stood in front of his team and looked at Zhou Yunqing. He silently commented in his heart, "I'm an old silver. He's as steady as an old dog. Damn it, I've met my opponent today. I won't fall in the final, right?" After handing over the name list, both sides saluted each other and gave each other the greatest respect. Then, they returned to their seats and sat down, waiting for the battle to begin. Ding Xilan stood up solemnly and said in a serious voice, "The name list of the two teams is already in my hands, and this name list is not allowed to be changed." Ding Xilan smiled. "Now, it's up to the captains and vice-captains of the two teams to arrange their troops. Next, I announce that the first player from Phoenix City First High School is Vice-Captain Li Chenglong. Shui City First High School's candidate is Vice-Captain Yin Quanglei." Ding Xilan glanced at the name list for the second time. Her eyes flashed with surprise. She smiled and said, "The lineups of the two teams are almost the same. For the first battle, they didn't send out their strongest captains. Instead, they sent out their second strongest vice-captains. It seems that they both want their vice-captains to take the first round and win. Unfortunately, their thoughts are the same, and their vice-captains met with each other. Next, let's see who will win and who will be the stronger one." The candidates for the first round indeed caused an uproar. Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhou Yunqing also looked at each other thoughtfully. The two vice-captains stood out at the same time. However, Yin Quanglei's momentum was like a glass of water compared to Li Chenglong's. The entire stands and the audience were a sea of people. Red flags fluttered, and they roared and cheered in unison. They were all Li Chenglong's fans. "Brother Iron, come on. Brother Iron, victory." On the internet, the people who were watching the live broadcast spontaneously established a Iron God sect. This sect had only been established for a few days, but the number of people who joined had already exceeded the 10 million mark. It became a mudslide on the internet. "Brother Iron, come on. Sect leader, domineering. Sect leader is mighty, unifying the Jianghu. What beauty. Make her cry with one punch. Iron God sect, I'm lonely. Bachelor's kennel, 7 seas and 5 lakes. Ow 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 ow, woof 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 woof. Sect leader, why did you hit a man this time? Change to another one." Sect leader, hit the little sister in the next battle. In the arena, shouts and whistles pierced through the clouds and fog. On the internet, words and phrases formed a tsunami. Iron God sect, Brother Iron, Li Chenglong, was the well-deserved sect leader that everyone had high hopes for. When the sect leader came out to fight, a group of followers cheered at the top of their lungs. This group of people were all single dogs. Every day, they were bootlickers but couldn't lick anything. They were the kind that got sick of eating dog food. Finally, they saw a Brother Iron who could grab a beauty and run wild. They immediately had a backbone. One by one, they waved their flags and shouted, shaking their heads and wagging their tails. At this moment, the Iron God sect's momentum was earth-shattering. Chapter 354. At this moment, Li Chenglong felt like he was missing a pair of sunglasses. Even his footsteps seemed to be in slow motion, intentionally or unintentionally. He walked out in a majestic and handsome slow-motion manner, step by step. It was really as if he was the god of gamblers entering the scene. However, his opponent did not intend to give him the chance to continue acting cool. He roared and rushed forward. The next moment, Li Chenglong smiled treacherously. His body suddenly sped up, and with a spin, 3 Li Chenglong appeared. One swung his fist, one drew his sword, and one kicked. It was Qin Fangyang's 5 directions sword mantra that Li Chenglong had learned and used. Before Yin Quanglei blinked, he was still looking at his opponent's slow-motion performance amidst the cheers of his fans. Who would have thought that the situation would turn out like this in the blink of an eye? Fortunately, he had prepared himself mentally. The sword in his hand met the incoming sword, and he leaned to the side to avoid the punch aimed at his nose. However, he did not manage to avoid the kick. He quickly put his legs together and twisted his buttocks. The kick that was supposed to land on his crotch landed heavily on Yin Kuanglei's buttocks. With a muffled bang, this kick sent Yin Kuanglei tumbling backwards. As the vice-captain, how could Li Chenglong make the mistake of losing focus in the face of an enemy? All the slow-motion moves earlier were just to bait the opponent into attacking and not being able to defend well. After succeeding in one move, Li Chenglong followed up with another attack. He punched, kicked, and swung his sword. His attacks were tyrannical and smooth. He was like a single dog that had left its nest. Although Li Chenglong had been taught the 5 directions sword mantra by Qin Fangyang and had some small achievements, this move required a lot of energy. With Li Chenglong's current cultivation level, he could only use it once and could not sustain it for a long time. However, after launching this move, not only was it unexpected, but they also gained the overwhelming advantage of 3 against 1. In an instant, they gained an overwhelming advantage. It was worth it. Yin Kuanglei's cultivation was roughly on par with Li Chenglong's. However, he had lost the upper hand right from the start and had fallen into a passive state. Li Chenglong did not have any intention of slowing down. His attacks became more and more concentrated, like a storm of attacks. Kill him while he's down. Yin Kuanglei was forced to retreat continuously. Suddenly, he let out an explosive roar. It was as if he didn't care about his life anymore as he charged out without a care for anything else. Immediately after, he charged forward, risking Li Chenglong's punches and kicks in order to regain some of the initiative. Otherwise, if he continued to be suppressed like this, he would definitely lose without any room for a comeback. When Li Chenglong saw this, he let out a loud roar and used all his strength. The sword in his hand was like a huge saber, and he used it to cleave a mountain. He used all his strength to meet the attack head-on. He remembered Zhou Xiaodu's warning, the opponent's sword, once it is out, there is no turning back. The most important thing is the momentum. You don't have as many tricks as I do. If you allow the opponent to unleash his sword aura, even if you can drag this battle out, you will still lose. When it comes to dealing with this kind of momentum, other than suppressing the opponent's attack from the start and taking the initiative, you also have to suppress the opponent's momentum. Even if the opponent uses a move that will injure both sides and force you to switch from offense to defense, you have to use a move that is even more tyrannical. You have to suppress the opponent and completely suppress the opponent's momentum. The key to this battle is to take the initiative at all times. No matter what, you can't let the opponent turn the situation back into a tie. Once you have the upper hand but lose, it will be your loss. And now, Li Chenglong was carrying out Zhou Xiaodu's words. You want me to give you a step back by charging at me? You think I won't dare to fight you with my life just because I have the upper hand? What a joke. You dare to fight me with your life, but do you think I don't dare to fight you with my life? With a loud clang, the two swords collided with each other in a crazy manner. With a bang, both swords shattered and turned into dust. Yin Kuanglei had poured all of his cultivation into this sword. He couldn't hold back his momentum, so he rushed forward again. Li Chenglong had also poured all of his cultivation into this sword. Seeing that Yin Kuanglei had no intention of retreating, he also rushed forward madly without dodging. Boom, 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 in the blink of an eye, the two of them had already punched each other 17 or 18 times. Then, under the inertia of rushing forward, the two heads steeled their hearts and lowered their heads. The two heads used a posture similar to that of a bull's horn and collided with each other. Bang! It was a solid collision. This collision caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. It was too loud. Then, a strange scene appeared on the stage. The two of them suffered from each other's huge impact and fell back together. Then, Yin Kuanglei got up as if he was drunk and swayed in slow motion. Li Chenglong's situation was similar. He got up crookedly and his eyes became cross-eyed. Using a posture similar to that of a drunkard, he slowly twisted and turned on the stage. Puff! Ding Xiulan and the others spat out a mouthful of tea. These two idiots had actually knocked each other unconscious. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Yunqing's teams covered their faces with both hands. They really didn't dare to watch on the stage. The two cross-eyed men's minds were full of stars. They spun around the stage like a drunkard and then fell down again. Sitting on the ground, they gasped for breath. Then, they didn't forget to focus their eyes and look around for their opponents. It was at this moment that blood spurted out from the top of their heads at almost the same time with a pew sound. On the internet, thousands of Iron God sect disciples were collectively dumbfounded. Sect Master. Sect Master. Hold on. Sect Master's cross-eyed eyes are so cute, just like a husky. Sect Master. Sect Master is mighty, knocking over the opponent with one blow. Zhou Xiaoduo took the lead and stood up. This match ends with a draw. Captain Zhou, do you have any objections? Zhou Yunqing hesitated and said, our chances of winning this match are less than 40%. If Captain Zhou can also end with a draw, we naturally have no objections. But we're taking advantage of you. Zhou Xiaoduo said, that's fine. Look at these two idiots. They'll need at least an hour to recover. Can we afford to wait? Zhou Yunqing laughed and said straightforwardly, then we'll take advantage of them and end with a draw. Then, one person went up and dragged back the two cross-eyed men who were still slacking around. While being dragged away, the two of them bared their fangs and brandished their claws, shouting incoherently, hit, 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 da-da-da. Whether it was on the stands or on the internet, laughter shook the sky. Sect Master is so cute. So Sect Master is not only ruthless to women, but also to men. It seems like he's even ruthless to himself. Ha 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 ha, I'm dying of laughter. I just ate a mouthful of rice, but it all came out of my nostrils. What's your rice? The noodles I just ate are still hanging from my nostrils. You're too silly. You two idiots. Silly +1. Long live Sect Master Silly. I must keep the recording of this match well. If I'm unhappy in the future, I'll watch it again. It's so fun. It's enough for me to use for a lifetime. The first match ended with a draw. This result was more or less beyond everyone's expectations. Strictly speaking, Li Chenglong had the advantage from the beginning of the match. He had the upper hand, and his strategy and tactics were excellent. He didn't give his opponent any chance to turn the situation around. Unfortunately, his opponent was also a ruthless person. At the most critical moment, he headbutted Li Chenglong. At that moment, Li Chenglong's hands and feet were exhausted. If he had dodged, he could have dodged, but he would have lost the initiative. The situation was reversed, so he simply headbutted Yin Kuanglei's head. Because of this, both of them fell into a cross-eyed state. Therefore, to a large extent, this draw was won by Yin Kuanglei himself. Zhou Xiaoduo had a good impression of such a tough guy. Therefore, he didn't care about the slight difference and took the initiative to propose a draw. After Li Chenglong and Yin Kuanglei were dragged back, they were still rolling their eyes and shaking their heads. They even wanted to crawl around on the ground. The pills had been fed, the cold water had been poured on their heads, and even the medicinal liquid had been drunk. However, they were still in a muddled state. Yu Moyan simply put Li Chenglong on the ground and sat on Li Chenglong's butt, forcefully suppressing. On the other side, when they saw that this method was good, they followed suit and sat on Vice Captain Yin Kuanglei's butt. When Ding Xiulan came out to announce the second match, she still couldn't help but smile. This didn't seem like a battle, but more like a crosstalk performance. The second match is between Phoenix City's second high school, Long Yuxing, and Water City's first high school, Ling Feishue. Long Yuxing held his sword and came out. On the other side, Ling Feishue's white clothes were like snow, and her long sword was like frost. Once she came out of the formation, she used the move of body and sword as one. Sword of no return. Before she came out of the formation, the sword's momentum was already formed. Dodge, block, retreat. All of these would only make her fall into a disadvantage. A fierce look flashed in Long Yuxing's eyes. His body tilted, and he turned into a white light with his sword. His long sword moved like a rainbow piercing the sun, and flew towards Ling Feishue's heart, using sword against sword, using attack against attack. Zhou Yunqing and the other high martial arts teachers on the stage were all stunned. Ling Feishue's sword move could be said to be a routine, and it was one of the moves of Sword of No Return. However, Long Yuxing's move was no longer a routine move, but a battle formation killing technique. In a battle formation killing, there was no victory or defeat, only life and death. This move also came from Qin Fangyang's biting cold heart of the sword. Killing sword of life and death. The sword cuts life and death. Your sword doesn't return? Jin Wuhui. Your sword doesn't return. I have no regrets in life and death. Both sides used the move of body and sword as one. The speed of their attacks was also extremely fast. As the saying goes, in a battle between experts, victory or defeat was decided in an instant. This sentence was verified here. From the moment Ding Xiulan announced the start of the second match, the winner and loser were decided in less than 3 seconds. Puff puff. Ling Feishue's sword pierced through Long Yuxing's lower abdomen, all the way to the hilt, revealing more than 2 feet of the bloody sword behind him. On the other hand, Long Yuxing's sword pierced through Ling Feishue's chest, all the way to the hilt, revealing more than 2 feet of the sword behind him. At the most crucial moment, Long Yuxing's sword moved slightly to the side, revealing the vital point of the heart. However, this was a true battle of life and death. Chapter 355. On the field, off the field, on the viewing platform, everyone was stunned by this thunderous sword. Everyone could only feel their chests pounding, and they could clearly hear the sound of their hearts thumping. No one could make a sound for a moment. Only cold sweat dripped down from their foreheads. Over there. Zhou Yunqing jumped up from his seat and shouted, "Don't move. We admit defeat." Zuo also jumped up as if his butt was on fire. "Don't move." Zuo would not say anything about a draw this time, because this time, Long Yuxing showed mercy at the last moment. If not, Ling Feishue would be a corpse now, and Long Yuxing was still alive. This was already the outcome of the battle. There was no room for excuses, and the reason why Zhou Yunqing admitted defeat was because of this. Now, the two were still close to each other. Their swords were still stuck in each other's body. At this time, both of them still had a considerable amount of energy left. Just a slight movement of their wrists and a slight release of their true essence would cause irreparable damage. Their eyes met. Long Yuxing smiled faintly, and his right hand let go of the sword hilt. Ling Feishue's face was cold, and her right hand also let go of her sword hilt. Admirable. The two almost spoke at the same time. Ding Xiulan flew over, and with an indescribable ingenious hand speed, she separated the two. Then, she drew out their swords along the wound, carefully and swiftly. There was no hesitation in the process. At this time, the more hesitant it was, the easier it was to ruin things. As the two swords left the body, blood gushed out. Ding Xiulan was still quick to respond. First, she put the 2 elixirs into their mouths, and then she sprinkled the top-grade golden sore medicine. Then, she took out 2 small bottles, one for each person, and poured it down. Then, with cold sweat on his forehead, he said, "These 2 kids, why are they so violent? They directly decided the outcome of the battle with one move. This is a real life and death battle." Zhang Xiaofei sighed. There are countless accidents in the path of cultivation. Even if you have the elixir of immortality in your hands, if you don't have the opportunity, you can only watch death descend upon you. Fortunately, Long Yuxing's sword tip was slightly off at the last moment. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaofei shook his head and didn't continue. But everyone understood what he meant. Wanli Xiu was so scared that her whole body trembled. She carried Long Yuxing back. Her small face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Zuo shook his head and said, somewhat speechlessly, "Xiu, I've already checked for you. You're not destined to be a widow in this lifetime. Don't worry." When the people around heard this, they thought, what the fuck? Although this kid is saying nice things, why are his words so unpleasant? However, to everyone's surprise, when Wanli Xiu heard this, Her eyes actually lit up. She said excitedly, "Really?" Zhuo shrugged. "You don't believe me? When have I ever lied to you? Even if Long Yuxing lied to you, I wouldn't lie to you, right?" "Yes, yes." Wan Lixio nodded repeatedly. Her mood immediately stabilized a lot. Several high martial arts teachers looked at Wan Lixio in confusion. Wan Lixio was actually coaxed by Zhuo's unpleasant words. They could not help but look at each other. "I won't have the life of a widow in this life." These words were actually used to comfort people? This was the first fucking time they heard it. And what did he mean by, even if Long Yuxing lied to you, I wouldn't lie to you? Her boyfriend was just nearby and had just been seriously injured. How could you say that? Were you really not here to poach her? Both of them were carried back. There were only 2 pools of blood left in the arena. It was a shocking sight. Phoenix City High School number 2, 1 win and 1 draw. Based on the current situation, they had the advantage and had the upper hand. The third round, Phoenix City High School number 2, Li Zhangming. Water City High School, Yu Yin Er. When they heard the names of their opponents, everyone's spirits were lifted. However, they did not know how the 2 of them would fight in this round. Would they see that mysterious and unpredictable Great Dream Divine technique again? For the first time, Li Zhangming actually took out a long iron rod from his space ring. As he strode out, he casually swung the iron rod and a huge flower appeared. It was truly a spectacular sight and was pleasing to the eye. Dong! Li Zhangming propped the iron rod on the ground and said majestically, "Please." How could the crowd not understand? This guy was obviously not going to use the Great Dream Divine technique. He was going to use pure strength to win. Yu Yin was a petite and beautiful woman. She had a delicate figure and a delicate face. Paired with her snow-white clothes, she looked really lovely, making me feel pity for her. In her hand, there was a sharp sword. "Please." The sword flashed and Li Zhangming's rod was already whistling. The battle between the 2 of them was intense. They exchanged hundreds of moves in one breath, but there was no clear winner. It was hard to tell who was better. Yu Yin looked petite, but her toughness was unusually strong. Her swordsmanship was not like Yin Kuanglei and Ling Feishue's, where the sword was unstoppable. Instead, it was extremely soft and flexible. However, it was also different from Zhuo's drizzle swordsmanship. Her swordsmanship was dense and focused on offense. Her swordsmanship was more suitable for a woman's soft and delicate style. After 500 moves, Li Zhangming gradually felt that his strength was running out. He could not help but panic and thought to himself, "Am I going to lose twice in a row?" As the thought flashed through his mind, he suddenly swung his long rod 17 to 18 times. Then, he quickly turned around and threw the long rod in his hand in a spinning manner. His target was Yu Yin. Then, he raised his hands. Yu Yin had already sensed that Li Zhangming's attacks were gradually slowing down. She thought that Li Zhangming's strength was running out. Her strategy of using softness to defeat strength was working. However, she did not expect an unforeseen event to happen. First, there was a round of fierce attacks. Although it was not impossible to deal with, it temporarily limited her to one spot. Then, there was another rod that flew out of his hand. However, this was not a problem for Yu Yin. She still managed to dodge it. However, just as she was dodging, Li Zhangming casually threw 4 or 5 white gas at Yu Yin's face. Yu Yin tried her best to hold her breath. However, the white gas was colorless and odorless. It did not enter the body through breathing. Instead, it entered the body in a silent way. Seeing that Li Zhangming turned around and ran, Yu Yin was enraged. She changed from defense to offense and quickly chased after him. However, just as she jumped up, she felt dizzy and an irresistible drowsiness swept over her. On the other side, Li Zhangming was also in a wobbly state. However, he continued to throw out 2 more white gas. Obviously, he was taking precautions. Then, he fell to the ground and fell into a deep sleep. Yu Yin was getting more and more dizzy. Finally, she could not hold on any longer and fell to the ground. Then, her eyes rolled back. She slowly lay down on the ground and fell into a sweet sleep.
Da.
Everyone was speechless. This kind of operation that we don't understand is happening again. The great dream divine art was performing again. On the field, Li Zhongming was sleeping soundly. Yu Yin-er's breathing was light and gentle. She slept like a lady. After a long time, there was no intense battle like the one between Li Zhongming and Shimin Daqing. After a while, the smile on Li Zhongming's face turned strange. Yu Yin-er's face was also flushed red, as if she was very shy. After a long time, Yu Yin-er screamed and woke up. Li Zhongming, who was opposite her, also opened his eyes at the same time. His face was full of embarrassment. Yu Yin-er jumped up and pointed at Li Zhongming with a red face. You pervert. How could you do that? Li Zhongming was embarrassed. Cough, cough, cough. That was not that. Yu Yin-er's face was red and she stomped her feet. Suddenly, she covered her face and ran back. Li Zhongming had a silly smile on his face and did not speak for a long time. Everyone, including the referee, had a look of curiosity on their faces. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. Zhou Yunqing looked at Zhou Xiaoduo, and Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Zhou Yunqing and smiled bitterly at the same time. How was this going to be settled? At that moment, no one knew how to settle the score. After all, they were not the ones involved. Who knew what kind of dream they had? The internet was in an uproar. What do you think Li Zhongming, this perverted fat single dog, did to the girl in his dream? I think that when the girl woke up and called him a pervert, I think it's not that simple. I don't need you to say it's not simple. Based on my experience as a single dog, this kid must have her in her dream. With my fifth limb, I personally agree with this deduction. This kid's smile is too perverted. He actually used his divine art to make the girl have a wet dream. What a bitch. I wonder what it was like in the dream. Did he really take it off? Tisk. One look and I know you're a pure single dog. In a dream, do you know the flow of time in a dream? Maybe in the dream, you've already given birth to a few children and spent your entire life with them. You're right. Once, I dreamt that I spent a few decades in my dream. It was so comfortable, but I can't remember the details. Anyway, it was comfortable. Of course it's comfortable in a sweet dream. If you continuously enter the bridal chamber in your dream, how could it not be comfortable? TSK. Chest lift. What a wonderful idea, da. How is this considered victory or defeat? The referees were also confused. Zhou Xiaoduo asked loudly, Li Zhongming, tell me honestly, what did you do to her in your dream? Li Zhongming stuttered with an embarrassed look on his face. No, nothing. Why did she run away with a red face? She even called you a pervert? Zhou Xiaoduo was full of righteousness and said sternly, tell me honestly. Otherwise, even if you're in the arena now and your opponent is no longer in the arena, I still can't declare you the winner. Zhou Yunqing suddenly raised her head and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo looked back calmly, his eyes as calm as water. Zhou Yunqing narrowed her eyes and said, Captain Zhou, this concerns a woman's reputation. You can't take it lightly. Zhou Xiaoduo said calmly, it's just a dream. How can it be real? Besides, it's a martial arts competition in the arena. It's all about skills. Chapter 356. But Li Zhongming's great dream divine technique can obviously control dreams. Zhou Yunqing's eyes were sharp. That's Li Zhongming's ability, and it's also a battle tactic. Zhou Xiaoduo was still indifferent. But in the end, it's still a dream. Even if it's a dream, you used a dream to humiliate a girl. What kind of battle tactic is that? Zhou Yunqing asked sharply. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled faintly. First, other than the two of them, no one knows what happened in the dream. Second, in this arena, there's only victory and defeat. There's no distinction between men and women. I've never thought that girls should be given preferential treatment in this arena. Third, if humiliating a girl can make her admit defeat and let us win, then I'll answer you directly. Then I can give you a clear answer. Yes, this is the way to fight. Zhou Xiaoduo raised his head and puffed out his chest. He said loudly, and the most important fourth point, I've never explicitly asked for Li Zhongming to win. But the fact is, your team members were no longer in the arena before the outcome was decided. This is an ironclad fact. Even if I insist that we won this round, I can still say that I'm in the right. But I didn't. This is already giving you leeway. Fifth, the reason why I emphasize this point is to prevent you from using your reputation to force Li Zhongming to admit defeat. And you did mention the two words reputation later. So I'm telling you clearly that this path won't work. Even if Li Zhongming admits defeat because he's embarrassed, as the team leader, I won't admit defeat. If you insist on using reputation to force Li Zhongming to admit defeat, I won't accept it. Zhou Xiaoduo faced everyone and said, "This is an arena, and also a battlefield. In the arena, there's only one opponent. In the battlefield, there's only one enemy." On the opposite side, Zhou Yunqing's face was ashen. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes were burning. He didn't back down at all. His aura was overwhelming. After a long time, Zhou Yunqing said softly, "I shouldn't have talked about gender. The arena is the arena. This part is because my thinking is biased. I think that girls should be given preferential treatment. For this, I sincerely apologize. However, the judges will have to decide the outcome of the match. Just like how captains were refused to admit defeat, I, Zhou Yunqing, also don't think that my team members have lost." Zhou Yunqing looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. Both of them stared at each other, neither willing to back down. The two captains were unwilling to admit defeat, but they didn't have any concrete evidence to prove that they had won and convince everyone. The referees discussed for a while before Ding Xiulan made the decision. "This match ends in a draw. Do you have any objections?" Zhou Xiaoduo beamed with delight. "Teachers, your eyes are indeed sharp. You were able to come up with a reasonable judgment in an instant. This student is impressed and has no objections. Actually, it doesn't matter. It's just that Captain Zhou has been a little conflicted about winning or losing. Haha, it's really not a big deal. Even if we lose this match, it doesn't matter. We can just fight back." All in all teachers have worked hard. No matter how well-mannered Zhou Yunqing was, she was still angered by him. Who was the one who was conflicted about winning or losing? However, in front of so many people, Zhou Yunqing had to take care of his face and demeanor. How could he quarrel with Zhou Xiaoduo? He could only swallow his anger and cup his hands. "Teacher's judgment is fair. We have no objections." She glanced at Zhou Xiaoduo with a frown. For the first time, she felt that it wasn't easy to deal with this guy even if she had mentally prepared herself. Zhou Yunqing was a square person. His personality was completely different from Zhou Xiaoduo's. She simply couldn't keep up with Zhou Xiaoduo's thoughts. However, Zhou Yunqing's Fangjing was a real Fangjing. Therefore, he would always choose to be himself. He wouldn't keep tangling with Zhou Xiaoduo. Even if he felt a little resentful, he would quickly get over it. Zhou Xiaoduo was convinced by such a person from the bottom of his heart. He actually couldn't anger him. Masters Wu felt very defeated, right? "I didn't act like a hooligan." Li Zhongming was so angry that his face turned red. "I didn't act like a hooligan." "Sigh, that's not important." Zhou Xiaoduo comforted him. "Who asked you to drag a girl to sleep with you?" That sentence was full of ambiguity. On the opposite side, Yu Yan'er screamed, "Zhou Xiaoduo." Zhou Xiaoduo laughed out loud. However, there was a meaningful look in his eyes. Then, he patted Li Zhongming's shoulder. His words directly diverted this matter to the highest heavens. Since it was a draw, nothing else mattered anymore. Of course, if someone wanted to argue about it, they could argue about it. After interacting with each other for so long, Zhou Xiaoduo had absolute faith in Li Zhongming's character. Besides, if Li Zhongming really wanted to act like a hooligan, why would he do it in front of a live broadcast? This was simply impossible. Zhou Xiaoduo didn't want to complicate things. The fourth round, Phoenix City No. 2 High School's candidate is Zhou Xiaoduo. Water City No. 1 High School's candidate is Pai Yibao. Ding Xiulan announced loudly. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed out loud as he walked onto the stage. Suddenly, the entire internet was in an uproar. "The King of Swords is here." "Oh!" roar. "My king is mighty. My king. Kick his crotch." Long live the king. Da. After Zhuo Duo won a few rounds in a row, he received a new nickname on the internet, King of Swords. The name sounded really domineering. Of course, it started off as crotch-kicking king. However, many people felt that it was indecent and changed it to cheap king. However, there were also people who suggested that the king's name shouldn't be so straightforward. Thus, it became the ultimate king of swords. Just as Zhuo Duo stood still, Pai Yibao walked out with a frown on his face and said, "I admit defeat." The king of swords, who was posing, almost spat out his saliva. "This is the finals. How can you admit defeat just like that? Are you kidding me?" He didn't know that after his fight with Lanbing Rue, Water City No. 1 High School came to a consensus. Except for Zhou Yunqing, no matter who went up against Zhuo Duo, they had to admit defeat immediately. They didn't want to be beaten up. Moreover, they had to lose in an extremely aggrieved manner. It might even affect their martial arts heart. The loss outweighed the gain. Not to mention, it was too dangerous to fight against Zhuo Duo. Those who didn't know the truth could still watch the show. However, everyone was an expert. What was the point of watching the show? The flaming sun scripture that Zhuo Duo showed at the end could turn someone into a roasted suckling pig with one palm. What was the point of fighting? The fourth round, Phoenix City No. 2 High School wins. Currently, Phoenix City No. 2 High School. With 2 wins and 2 draws, No. 2 High School had the absolute upper hand. They only needed to win one more round to clinch the championship. The current situation of the two teams was that each of them had one person disabled. Long Yuxing on one side and Ling Feishue on the other. It was absolutely impossible for these two people to make a move during this period of time. As for the vice-captains of the two teams, they had almost recovered from their cross-eyed state. They both had the full combat strength of 5 people. Next was naturally the subsequent battle of the independent contestants. Zhou Yunqing couldn't help but frown. Every single one of his classmates were strong and talented, but compared to Phoenix City's second senior high school, other than Zhuo Duo, the rest of them were basically on par with each other, with a 50% chance of winning. In this case, there were too many subtle methods that could affect the outcome of the battle, especially the other team's captain, Zhuo Duo. Basically, every word he said would imperceptibly increase the psychological pressure on the other side. Sometimes, Zhou Yunqing really felt that his side was at a disadvantage. What did it mean to fight 7 rounds? That was too many, okay? The other side had Zhuo Duo, the expert in playing with words. Almost every moment, he opened his mouth to attack. Increasing the psychological pressure on our side increased their chances of winning by a little bit. This was really too much of a disadvantage. "I'll go first in the independent battle," Zhou Yunqing said. "If they send someone else, I can guarantee that I'll win the next round. But in the next round, the other side will definitely send Zhuo Duo. If I try my best and take a chance, I might be able to disable Zhuo Duo. After that, I'll have to rely on you guys to turn the tables. Even if I can fight Zhuo Duo to the point where both of us are injured, I won't be able to fight anymore. If Zhuo Duo directly enters the battle, then, in short, the rest of the battle will depend on you guys. Captain, you can do it." Zhou Yunqing took a deep breath and felt a surge of pride in his chest. He stood up. He had a feeling that Zhuo Duo would definitely not give him a chance to turn the tables. He would definitely enter the battle personally and end the battle as soon as possible. As expected, Zhou Yunqing had just stood up when he saw Zhuo Duo standing on the stage with his clothes fluttering in the wind. Zhou Yunqing unsheathed his long sword and flicked the blade with his finger. With a clang, the long sword roared and the sword's aura soared into the sky. He walked over step by step, his momentum rising with each step. Zhuo Duo looked unprecedentedly dignified. He said lightly, "Captain Zhou, listen to my advice. Don't use weapons when you fight with me." As soon as this sentence came out, at least millions of people were speechless. Even the 6 referees didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All the students of Watertown No. 1 Middle School focused on swords. You want them to not use weapons? Do you want them to tie their hands and feet and let you beat them? Or just admit defeat? However, Those who were familiar with Zhuo immediately had a thought. This guy must be scheming again. Zhou Yunqing frowned. Why? Zhuo turned his wrist, and the cat spirit sword appeared in his hand. Under the sunlight, the clear sword reflected thousands of rays of light, as if there was a small sun in his hand. He stretched out his hand and the sword in his hand. He stretched it out in the air and said lightly, "This sword of mine is called Cat Spirit. It is 3 feet long and weighs 8 ounces. This sword was given to my teacher by General Dongfang. Then my teacher gave it to me." Zhuo said without blushing or panting, "This sword is said to be made by the only divine craftsman in the continent, Master Wu Kizhu, 17,000 years ago. It can cut iron like mud and cut through hair. It is soft when it meets hard and hard when it meets soft. Its sharpness is recognized as the best in the world." Zhuo said seriously, "Captain Zhou, the famous sword in your hand might be a divine artifact, or at least, it's your beloved item, a spirit treasure that can be used for dual cultivation. But in terms of sharpness, it can't be compared with my cat spirit. If it is damaged, wouldn't it be a great loss? That's why I advise you not to use weapons when you fight with me, or change to a sword. Even if it is damaged, you won't feel bad. You can avoid regret for life." Zhuo said seriously, "Captain Zhou, please think twice. This is just a competition. I don't want to cause you regret for life." On and off the field, the referees, the audience, the netizens in the live broadcast, and the whole country were speechless. I write until I feel weak all over. Please give me a recommendation ticket. I go home to rest. I feel like I have a cold. I can't turn on the air conditioner. In this weather, I am ready to get a heat stroke at any time. Chapter 357. Zhuo's words seemed to make sense. He seemed to have good intentions. From the beginning to the end, he was thinking for Zhou Yunqing. She confided in him wholeheartedly and earnestly, and her feelings were sincere. However, Zhou Yunqing's combat power was basically on the sword in his hand. You want him to fight with you bare-handed without a sword? Or change out his god-level weapon and use an ordinary weapon to fight against your god-level weapon? Isn't that asking for defeat? However, with these words, even if Zhou Yunqing continued to fight with his own sword, he would definitely pay extra attention to whether or not his sword was damaged. His mind would inevitably be distracted, and he would become more and more restrained. Before the battle even began, he had already lost by 30%. What was the point of fighting? It was you, Zhuo, who used your mouth to win the finals. If Zhuo hadn't said these words, Zhou Yunqing wouldn't have known anything. Even if his sword was damaged, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, with these words, this sword was given to him by Marshal Dongfang. This sword couldn't be ignored anymore. It actually had a foothold. I'm really speechless. Zhang Xiaofei frowned. Obviously, he was thinking hard. When did Marshal Dongfang mention this cat spirit sword? Ding Xilan was also thinking. The cat spirit sword was recognized as the sharpest sword in the world. I don't think I've heard of it before. Logically speaking, such a sword should be famous all over the world. Cui Shangyan was deep in thought, wondering, is this for real? Could it be that I'm too ignorant? However, he directly said that it was Marshal Dongfang's sword in front of a national live broadcast. If it wasn't true, who would dare to say it? However, I heard that Zhuo's original teacher, Qin Fangyang, was indeed under Marshal Dongfang's command in the past. They were quite close. Could it be that what Zhuo said this time was actually true? At this moment, the one who felt the most uncomfortable was Zhou Yunqing. Although Zhou Yunqing had always been calm and upright, as the person directly involved, he also felt a toothache at this moment. If he could, he really wanted to grab Zhuo and beat him up. No one is as despicable as you. Even if you're the Sword King, aren't you being too cheap? When he appeared, his habitual action of pulling out the sword and flicking it was immediately caught by the other party. From there, he deduced that the sword was his beloved item, which was why he said that. The students of Shuaicheng No. 1 Middle School were famous for their swords. Naturally, They knew a lot about the famous swords on the continent. If there really was such a divine sword that was recognized as the sharpest sword on the continent, it was impossible that he didn't know its name and origin. Zhou Yunqing was almost certain that Zhou Xiaoduo was talking nonsense when he said that it was a gift from General Dongfang, made by the best craftsman in the continent and recognized as the sharpest weapon in the world. Even so, even though Zhou Yunqing knew that Zhou Xiaoduo was using psychological warfare, Zhou Yunqing could not ignore it. What about the remaining 20%? What if it was true? His heart would ache for a few days if his sword were to be damaged. It was truly a beloved item. Even if the other party's sword was fake, the aura he had seen earlier was truly extraordinary. What if it was really sharp? What if it really damaged his treasured sword? But if he didn't use this sword, almost 80% of his kung fu would be gone. If he faced with Xiaoduo, he might not even be able to last 3 moves. After a moment of hesitation, Zhou Yunqing's complexion changed. At this moment, on the stage, a white-bearded teacher from Ancestral Dragon High School finally couldn't help but frown and say, "Zhou Yunqing, if this is the battlefield, the enemy has a peerless divine weapon in his hand. Would you give up the battle just to protect your beloved sword?" This sound was like the evening drum and morning bell, slowly ringing. Zhou Yunqing's chaotic state of mind was suddenly cleansed, and he suddenly woke up. His eyes became clear again, and he said in a deep voice, "Thank you, teacher, for your warning." That's right. What this teacher used just now was a famous cultivation method. Severe warning. The other 5 judges all turned their heads, and their faces were full of shock. Especially teacher Ding Xiulan, who was also from Ancestral Dragon High School, looked at the referee teacher in disbelief. The whole audience was in an uproar. No matter how much Zhou Xiaoduo talked and caused people to make mistakes, it was still a student competition, and it was the finals. In the finals, any way to destroy the opponent's confidence and morale was allowed by the rules, because scheming was a part of one's strength. But this teacher suddenly opened his mouth and enlightened him with a severe warning, which was tantamount to directly intervening to help the other side. This could be said to be a big taboo, which made the competition lose its fairness and, at the same time, made the referee lose his neutral position. Zhou Xiaoduo also felt a shock in his heart. Severe warning was helpful to Zhou Yunqing, because he was at a loss. When he woke up, it was like waking up from a dream, and his mind became more alert. But to Zhou Xiaoduo, it was harmful. His heart was even shaken because of this. It was as if he was in a peaceful state, but suddenly encountered an earthquake, and he was in a trance. If he were to fight at this moment, his state of mind would definitely be unstable, and he would be flustered. He turned his head to look and laughed. "Teacher, your cultivation is really good. Even your student feels that his state of mind has been greatly improved." The white-bearded teacher frowned and said, "Zhou Xiaoduo, you don't have to be dissatisfied. I know that you have a problem with me and think that I have ruined your strategy, but as a person, it's better to be upright. If you blindly rely on small tricks, even if you win, what's the point? The tricks you used are just small tricks, after all," the white-bearded teacher said in a sincere and heartfelt manner. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled indifferently, and his figure became more upright. His tone was unusually calm, and he said, "Whether it's small tricks or big tricks, it has nothing to do with the competition at hand. And now, I just want to say, teacher, you have ruined the fairness of the competition. I respect you as a teacher, but you are now in the referee's seat, and your severe warning is creating unfairness, and you have lost your neutral position as a referee. As far as this competition is concerned, all I want is to win. It doesn't matter if it's a big or small trick. All I want is to be the champion. Even if it's a small trick, as long as it can help me win, it's a good trick. What does it have to do with big tricks? At least in this competition, no matter what tricks we use, they are our own tricks, and we are fighting each other. Although I am only a student, I would like to raise a protest. I protest that the referee is unfair." Zhou Xiaoduo's expression turned cold. His attitude had always been gentle and polite, and he was especially respectful to his teachers. He was polite and considerate, and there was no lack of etiquette. No one would have thought that at this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo would burst out with such a lofty aura. He actually pointed out that the referee was unfair in front of everyone and in front of the national live broadcast. He bluntly raised a protest. Whether it was the teachers or the audience, they were all shocked and indescribable. They asked themselves, if they were in the same situation, what would they do? More than 99% of the people would only take advantage of the situation and continue to fight. They would not directly say anything and offend their teachers. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo chose to say it directly, and he pointed it out directly, without any hesitation. I respect you as a teacher because I have always been full of admiration and respect for my teachers, but it is also because of this that I especially respect the profession of a teacher. Then, you have done something unfair, and you have destroyed my respect for the profession of a teacher. How can I not say it? Zhuo Xiaoduo even felt that he had said it too lightly. The white-bearded teacher's expression suddenly changed, and a cold look flashed in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "But all your previous actions, aren't they creating unfairness?" Zhuo Xiaoduo said lightly, "The so-called fairness varies from person to person, from time to time, and from place to place. What time is it now? What place is it now?" Now, it was time for the finals of the grand competition. Scheming and tricks have always been a part of one's strength, and I don't think it's unfair for me to be in the same team. After all, what I can do, others can do as well. How can this be unfair? Perhaps in your opinion, my actions are biased, and you define it as unfair. However, the rules of the competition do not explicitly state that participants are not allowed to speak to affect their opponents. However, it's clearly stated that your actions are a violation of the rules. Zhuo Xiaoduo stood tall and straight, and his gaze did not flinch at all. He looked at the teacher and said loudly, "So, I am not wrong. That is, you are unfair." The whole world was shocked. The team leader of the Longhu list actually had the overall advantage in the finals, and when the champion was about to be in his hands, he directly pointed out that the referee was unfair. Ding Xilan and the others were also dissatisfied, but this dissatisfaction was not directed at Zhuo Xiaoduo. Zhang Xiaofei laughed coldly. "Gu Yuanhang, why did you interrupt the competition? Give me a reason?" Cui Shangyan was also extremely dissatisfied. After so many competitions, this is the first time such a thing has happened. "Brother Gu, I should say that you are impulsive. What else is there?" Gu Yuanhang snorted coldly, and with a pale face, he said coldly, "I have a clear conscience." Ding Xilan's face was complicated. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she did not say anything. She only looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo with a little guilt. At this moment, a cold voice in the stand said, "Gu Yuanhang, you have a clear conscience? How can you say that? If you did not have a death feud with my Kunlun Dao sect, would you do this?" Gu Yuanhang shouted angrily, "Who? Me?" The clouds in the air suddenly dispersed, and Mu Yinyan's graceful figure appeared in midair. Her expression was cold, and she said coldly, "Gu Yuanhang, ask yourself honestly, is it true?" Gu Yuanhang retorted angrily, "No." Mu Yinyan was furious, "No? Do you dare to swear to the great way of heaven? If it were not for Zhuo Xiaoduo's starry steps, dragon gate kick, and star-picking palm involving the Kunlun Dao sect, would you be reprimanded, helping one and hurting the other? Why, do you think that with your identity as a referee, Zhuo Xiaoduo will be like an ordinary student, swallowing his anger and letting you do whatever you want?" Chapter 358. Mu Yinyan pointed her finger in the air and shouted, "If you have a grudge, you can come at the Kunlun Taoist sect. What's the point of showing your power to a child? I will report this matter." Gu Yuanhang's face turned pale. The great way of heavenly sound alliance? He really didn't dare to do that, because as Mu Yinyan said, he was selfish. Mu Yinyan snorted and looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo below with cold eyes. Her fingers quietly clenched into fists. Zhuo Xiaoduo's legs went soft for some reason, and he curled up into a ball. He was so scared that he stuttered, "Moo, moo." He wanted to say hello to Teacher Moo, but before he could say it, Moo Yin snorted, "You wait." Then she turned into a white cloud in the air and drifted away. Obviously, she had gone far away. Duo broke out in cold sweat. He thought silently, after this battle, should I run away from home immediately? As Mu Yinyan's figure went away, the whole place was silent. Gu Yuanhong's face gradually turned pale. He was being slapped in the face. Just as Mu Yinyan said, Gu Yuanheng dared to do this because he was confident. Gu Yuanheng was sure that Duo would not dare to expose this matter in public, or even pursue this matter. After all, his warning to Zhou Yunqing was done in the image of a kind and benevolent elder. In the eyes of outsiders, his intention was good, to guide the student. As long as he was not exposed on the spot, he would be fine. All the follow-up and comments on the internet could be suppressed with this reason. But what he didn't expect was that everything went against his wishes. This Xiaoduo's thoughts and actions were different from all the students he imagined. He really flipped the table in front of everyone's eyes in the national live broadcast. This was an unprecedented thing, and it led the situation to the worst situation. In a calm situation, an atomic bomb suddenly exploded. Thunder on the ground. Ding Xiulan's face was very ugly at this moment. At this moment, she even wanted to kill Gu Yuanheng. In the finals, he sided with one side and was exposed on the spot. The most terrible thing was that the biased person was a referee, and what gave Ding Xiulan the most headache was that Gu Yuanheng was the teacher of Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts. And the most serious thing was that when Gu Yuanheng spoke, Ding Xiulan also cared about the face of Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts and didn't expose it on the spot. She also thought that Duo might not dare to expose it. But Duo didn't feel wronged at all and exploded directly. And there were masters of Kunlun Taoist sect watching martial arts masters who directly flipped the table directly. Even if Xiao had 10,000 more guts, he would never choose Ancestral Dragon High Martial School to further his studies. Then, what was the point of all his previous efforts? It was all in vain because of the subtle state of mind caused by Gu Yuanhong's personal grudges. Gu Yuanheng. Thinking of this, Ding Xiulan could no longer hold it in. She flew into a rage, her eyes red. Get out. Get. Of you. From the moment you spoke, you no longer have the right to stand on the referee's seat. When I return to the school, I will report this matter to the principal. Gu Yuanheng, you can't run away. You must pay the price for what you did today. Ding Xiulan felt as if a knife was being twisted in her heart. A student who was destined to become a legend. At the beginning of the legend, he would forever be separated from the school, creating an indelible and unresolvable estrangement and even hatred. Ding Xiulan had already made a comprehensive plan for Xiaoduo's future, including how to protect him in the future, how to gain experience, how to go out for real and safe adventures. She had already formed a plan in her heart, detailed and long-term. With regards to Xiaoduo's future achievements, Ding Xiulan had high hopes for him. She even thought that as long as Xiaoduo grew up, his future achievements might even be above the four great generals. Xiaoduo might even reach the level of the left and right heavenly kings. He was a legendary seed whose name had shocked the world for tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Just like that, he was pushed away without a trace by a sudden sentence, and there was no possibility of recruiting him anymore. Ding Xiulan only felt that her heart was broken into pieces. Cui Shangyan and Zhang Xiaofei stood up at the same time, their faces solemn. We all agree that Gu Yuanheng is no longer suitable to be a referee, and we request for his dismissal. The two of them had solemn expressions on their faces, but in their hearts, they were laughing like flowers. They were really overjoyed. What Ding Xiulan was thinking now was exactly what they were thinking. In this way, how could Xiaoduo go to Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts? That was absolutely impossible. And a genius like Xiaoduo would definitely not go to an ordinary high martial arts. Excluding Ding Xiulan, who was his nemesis, and the Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts that she represented, Xiaoduo only had two choices left. High Martial Arts, or Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts. This Gu Yuanheng was truly a good person. He had directly eliminated Ding Xiulan, who had a higher chance of succeeding than the others. The two of them almost hugged each other and sang a song of friends. Yes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. At least at this moment, they were the closest friends and comrades in arms. The two of them even wanted to toast to Gu Yuanheng. Bro, you're too awesome this time. Facing Ding Xiulan, we really have no confidence. That woman looked like she was determined to win, and most importantly, she really did most of her work. She did it to the point that's with Xiao Duo going to Ancestral Dragon High Martial Arts was almost a foregone conclusion. But Gu Yuanheng's sudden shout made all of it disappear. Ha 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 ha. Da Cui Shangyan and Zhang Xiaofei looked at each other and started to calculate their own advantages. Humph, this guy in front of us is nothing to worry about. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, but now that we don't have a common enemy, an enemy is just an enemy. Ding Xiulan's estimation of Zhou Xiaoduo's future was very high, but Cui Shangyan and Zhang Xiaofei's estimation of Zhou Xiaoduo's future was not too far off. Such a monstrous genius. What he lacked now was only space for growth. Once he reached the god-reigning level, he would basically be unrivaled. The so-called legend, today was already the beginning, and the future was just around the corner. The other two judges also expressed their opinions. After the discussion, the organizing committee decisively sent someone to invite Gu Yuanheng down. Here's an explanation. If I don't explain, I'm afraid that someone will lead the discussion. Reality is like this. In a major occasion, if someone important makes a mistake, as long as no one points it out on the spot, everyone will pretend to be deaf and wait for the internal department to deal with it. But once someone points it out on the spot, it will be a major incident, and the others can't pretend to be deaf and mute, then they will deal with it fairly. But if I don't explain, someone will lead the discussion and say something about the protagonist's halo. Gu Yuanheng's face was gloomy, and he glared fiercely at Zhou Xiaoduo, snorted, and left. He actually didn't return to the hotel, but flew up into the sky and returned to Shangjing alone. At this moment, Gu Yuanheng didn't know, nor could he imagine, that his return journey was actually a trip to hell. The assassinations he encountered along the way were like locusts, of course. This is all in the future. Let's talk about it later. After Gu Yuanheng left, Ma Zhangxi, who was nearby, took his place and became the new judge. The finals continued. At this moment, Ding Xiulan, who was at the judge's seat, had a look of boredom on her face. What's the point of me watching this competition? She put down her phone. Just as they were discussing how to deal with Gu Yuanheng, Ding Xiulan had already sent a message to the principal of Ancestral Dragon High School. On the chat page, there were more than 200 messages, including Zhou Xiaoduo's life, understanding, talent, future plans, and so on. Everything, no matter how big or small, was reported first. There were as many as 56 pieces of information in the report. The remaining 200 or so comments were all scolding Gu Yuanheng. The last sentence was especially ruthless. If you don't deal with Gu Yuanheng and don't satisfy me, I will resign and become a teacher wherever Zhou Xiaoduo goes to school. The principal of Ancestral Dragon High School, who was in a meeting, was dumbfounded. He watched as his phone vibrated on the desk. It vibrated all the way from the center of the desk to the other side, and then fell to the ground with a click. Then, it buzzed all the way on the ground. It vibrated on the smooth floor for more than 10 meters before it stopped. Who offended this great aunt again? It's a message from teacher Ding Xiulan. The principal, by Mei Xian, moved and looked at the vice principal helplessly. The vice principal's expression changed, and his beard trembled. He held his stomach with his hand and said, "Principal, my stomach hurts. I think I ate something bad this morning." "What the hell stomach hurts? You're in trouble." The principal rubbed his temples and looked like he had a headache. Ding Xiulan was the great-granddaughter of the first principal of Ancestral Dragon High School. She was also the only daughter of the current head of the martial arts department. She was also the daughter-in-law of the fourth principal. As the seventh principal, The current principal suddenly had the urge to resign. He didn't even want his phone anymore. He didn't want to see what the message was. If it was good news, it was impossible to send hundreds of messages in a row, right? It had to be reported face to face for the best effect. Since it wasn't good news, it could only be bad news, and it was super bad news. Judging from the mobile frequency, there should be at least 200 messages. The real intention of this action was to vent his anger that he couldn't control but had no place to vent at the moment. Let me see the phone. The principal rubbed his head and sighed. The impulse only lasted for a moment. As the principal, he had to do what he had to do. He had to face what he had to face. South G City. In the arena, the battle that was temporarily put on hold was restarted. Zhuo stood with his sword and said solemnly, Captain Zhou, today's battle between you and me has nothing to do with what happened before. Please focus on the battle. Zhou Yunqing said indifferently, Teacher Gu Yuanhong's warning did create unfairness. I admit it. It's an indisputable fact. However, in the end, he still helped me. I will accept this favor. Zhuo said, I hope it won't affect your state of mind. Focus on the battle. Zhou Yunqing smiled gently. Same here. You were angry just now. I hope you won't affect your state of mind and focus on the battle. Zhuo sighed. Old Zhou, you're such a gentleman. I don't want to trick you anymore. To be honest, I hate people like you the most in a battle. However, after the battle, we can still be friends. Zhou Yunqing laughed heartily. It's not bad to be friends. However, if you want to be friends with me, I'm afraid you have to be mentally prepared for my constant preaching. Zhuo was stunned. His face turned ugly as he said, Then forget it. With Zhou Yunqing's personality and Zhuo's personality clashing, if they really wanted to be friends, it would be like Zhuo bringing along a homeroom teacher. Just thinking about it made him tremble. Chapter 359. Zhou Yunqing laughed heartily. In order to show my respect for you, I will fight you fair and square. I will fight to my heart's content. Zhuo said solemnly, This time, I will use my real trump card and fight you with all my strength. Same to you. Zhou Yunqing smiled and said, I have no complaints. Captain Zhua, please. Zhou Yunqing raised his long sword and a cold light shone. He was wearing a long white robe and stood straight. The tip of his sword was pointed downwards. This was the highest etiquette of swordsmanship, to make friends with the sword. Zhuo placed his long sword in front of his chest. His flat chest was facing the tip of his nose. He returned the etiquette. This sword is like the heart. Good. Zhou Yunqing let out a long cry. His white robe fluttered as he soared into the sky. He flew back 30 meters in the direction behind him. He held his long sword and stood in midair with a sincere look on his face. This was the sincerity of the heart, the sincerity of the sword, and the sincerity of the Tao. When the heart rises, thousands of soldiers will be cut. When the thought moves, thousands of souls will fly. When a man fights, his sword will not return. Zhou Yunqing chanted softly in the air. His whole person became as dazzling as the sword light and even more resolute. Then, his long sword turned into a stream of light and disappeared from the sky. When it reappeared, it had crossed 100 meters and was in front of Zhuo. His sword was in front and his body was behind. His gaze was as resolute and sharp as a sword. It was unstoppable. Behind him, a vague black hole appeared. No return sword. Zhuo waved the long sword in his hand to his heart's content. Endless drizzle filled the space. Zhuo's figure disappeared in the dense curtain of rain. Zhuo's figure had disappeared into the dense curtain of rain. The drizzle was like a trace, drifting in the air. Every drizzle was an extremely fine sword chi. Under the infinite intertwining, it was dense and endless. Because of this, Zhuo's body seemed to have completely disappeared, but at the same time, he was everywhere. Zhou Yunqing's dazzling sword light broke through the rain like a bolt of lightning. As it advanced, it once again flew up into the sky. With a turn that was almost invisible to the naked eye, its aura increased by 30%. The majestic sword chi immediately cut the air above the arena into pieces. Even from the perspective of the live broadcast, it could be seen clearly. A streak of white light descended rapidly and rushed into the rain and mist again. Although everyone could only see a patch of rain and fog, Zhou Yunqing's sword heart was clear at this moment. He could clearly sense Zhou Xiaoduo's position. He had a clear target. At this moment, Zhou Yunqing's essence, qi, God, force, and spirit had all become one. He had actually entered a strange state that he had never entered before. He had even forgotten about victory and defeat, forgotten about karma. His entire being was filled with a strange mood. He finally comprehended the true essence of the no-return sword. In his ears, there seemed to be thousands of comrades shouting, "Charge!" In his eyes, there seemed to be tens of thousands of people looking at him. Charge! He completely understood why there was no return after the sword was drawn. Because there was no return. Behind him were his comrades. Behind him was his home. Behind him were his parents. Behind him were his wife and children. Therefore, a man could not return. Therefore, there was no return after the sword was drawn. How could a man return if he did not wipe out all his enemies? An indescribable murderous aura suddenly erupted in the rain and fog. This murderous aura gave people the feeling that they had gone to a battlefield where thousands of horses and thousands of soldiers were charging and killing each other. That kind of desperation, that kind of heroism. A few high martial arts teachers stood up in shock. Ding Xilan's eyes were full of shock. Zhou Yunqing has broken through. He actually broke through the third realm of the no-return sword in this kind of finals battle. Is this a coincidence? Is it inevitable? Or is it luck? The continuous rain and fog had already begun to disperse. However, following Zhou Xiaoduo's long howl, there was suddenly another phenomenon in the rain and fog. There were additional raindrops. In the rain and fog, there were countless sparkles and translucent crystals. What followed was a scorching aura. Pieces of starlight flickered in the air. Slowly, the area within 100 meters was filled with sparkling starlight. Zhou Xiaoduo really went all out at this moment. He fully activated the Starry Sky Steps and the Drizzle Sword. He even added the incomplete Drizzle Sword. The original True Origin energy could no longer counteract Zhou Yunqing's desperate aura. Zhou Xiaoduo had no choice but to activate the Flaming Sun Sutra. It could be said that Zhou Xiaoduo had used all the trump cards that he had revealed so far to deal with Zhou Yunqing. However, Zhou Yunqing's sword aura was becoming more and more intense, more and more desperate, and more heroic. Even though Zhou Xiaoduo counterattacked with all his might, his eyes were unprecedentedly clear and steady, he still could not counter Zhou Yunqing. Water City First High School. Principal's office. A person who only had half of his body stood straight and upright like a sword. He would rather break than bend. It was the former principal of Water City First High School, the former general of the Southern Army, Gu Qianfan. Behind him, there were 6 other teachers. They were all standing straight and staring at the screen. Water City First High School was different from other schools. No matter what they did, as long as they could still stand, they would not be in any other position. Therefore, when they were watching the competition, everyone stood and watched. Gu Qianfan quietly stared at the screen in front of him. On the screen, it was the scene of Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Yunqing's battle. Gu Qianfan's eyes were sharp. He was gratified and emotional. Yunqing has broken through. A few teachers exclaimed in excitement. Gu Qianfan's eyes became sharper. A breakthrough. Yes, it was a good thing. However, the sword of no return was different from other sword techniques. It had to be sublimated in battle. This was a sword to kill the enemy. It was also a sword of no return. Breaking through at this time was not necessarily a good thing. At least, It was not a good thing for Zhou Yunqing. A breakthrough in sword intent required a suitable opponent to help train and complete the breakthrough. If the opponent was defeated before the breakthrough was completed, it meant that the breakthrough was incomplete. However, if the opponent was defeated by the opponent, the breakthrough was equivalent to a failure. Because, if the heart of the sword was broken, how could the sword realm continue? It was like crossing a bridge. One could cross the single-plank bridge in one go, but the bridge broke halfway. What should one do? Gu Qianfan would call back all the students in this realm and choose a suitable teacher to fight with. Only when the breakthrough was completed could one completely stabilize the heart of the sword and truly break through. This was the most crucial step. It was also the most dangerous step on the path of an expert who practiced the no-return sword. It's okay. Gu Qianfan looked at the screen. That's why Xiao Duo was indeed a genius. Although he was at a disadvantage, he was still not defeated and could even counterattack. This kind of counterattack and adversity stimulated Zhou Yunqing's sword intent even more, making it more intense, explosive, and heroic. Very good. Gu Qianfan's eyes were filled with emotion. Yunqing met a good opponent. This is a coincidence. If she can use this to complete her breakthrough, it will be much stronger and better than your sparring partner's breakthrough. A teacher said, "This Xiao Duo has always been cunning and unscrupulous. Will he?" "Shut up," Gu Qianfan shouted. His gaze was unusually sharp. Now, as long as Xiao Duo retreats, Yunqing's breakthrough will be interrupted. She will die prematurely and give up halfway. With Xiao Duo's swordsmanship attainments, do you think he doesn't understand this? If he insists on not retreating, he is helping Zhou Yunqing. In every battle before, Xiao Duo chose the most correct way to fight. He maximized his advantages and targeted his opponent. However, he has never used this method to forcefully attack. Do you know why? This is already the most detailed evidence. Xiao Duo is helping Yunqing's breakthrough. This is a huge favor. Our Shui city must remember this. Not only is he helping, he is also constantly sharpening and stimulating Yunqing's upper limit. This is something that all the teachers in our school can't do. This is because they will always hold back against Yunqing and make Yunqing feel that they are invincible. However, Xiao Duo is different. The current situation is that Yunqing is suppressing Xiao Duo. If Xiao Duo retreated, he would naturally be able to defend himself. However, he did not retreat. He was betting his own safety on Yunqing's opportunity to break through. Only in this way, only such an opponent, a true opponent, can the no-return sword that belongs to Zhou Yunqing be activated. Only then will it be the true no-return sword. If it were you sparring with him, he wouldn't have been able to unleash such a killing intent, such a tragic and heroic aura. This is also the biggest flaw of our school students all these years. For Zhou Yunqing to be able to break through in this competition, it is his greatest fortune, because he met the right person. If he misses this opportunity, he will never have another one in his life. Gu Qianfan said heavily, "This child is very good. Very good. Can't you see it? Even if we don't talk about swordsmanship, with his cultivation of the Flaming Sun Sutra, he only needs to gather and activate it. With a single palm strike, he can easily interrupt Yunqing's breakthrough. However, he was still using his sword to fight, stimulate, and fulfill his wish. In this society, there is still such an opponent who is worth making friends with for the rest of his life and cherishing for the rest of his life." Gu Qianfan's words were not only seen by him, but also by the referees. Even if they didn't understand at first, with their level, how could they not see it after observing for a period of time? Everyone was watching the battle carefully with wide eyes. They didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. Everyone was praying. They had even forgotten about the victory or defeat that they should be most concerned about. It was because the victory or defeat of this match, compared to the height that Zhou Yunqing could reach, was no longer important, insignificant. Xiao Duo, you must hold on. You must hold on. Don't be jealous. You must continue to activate it. You are now activating an unprecedented genius in swordsmanship. You may even activate it to a height that even the creator of the no-return sword could not reach. because the opponent was right. Just as Gu Qianfan said, Zhou Xiaoduo did indeed see it. He also knew that Zhou Yunqing was experiencing a rare moment of enlightenment in swordsmanship. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.